The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll be discussing the KOP title, New Japan Cup USA, Suzuki vs. Nagata, answering your questions and covering all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network and to Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving us a rating and review. You can get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, ProWrestlingTees.com/Social Suplex. That's where you can get the official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over the technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SUPLEX at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code SUPLEX. Young boy, how you doing, man?
Jeremy, you do such an incredible job just handling all of the production and sound editing with this show. And I can only assume that you have started the broadcast of this podcast with the appropriate 10-bell salute to start this show. Is that correct?
I didn't. Are you saying something is dying?
What I'm saying is New Japan is dead. It is cooked, finito, finished. For those of you that are just tuning in, you might not know, but we're supposed to be doing a quote-unquote half-year report. I don't know why we even got to do a half-year report. I can give you the prognosis, and right now, shit is done.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm just playing.
I hear people turning off the app right now. Oh,
no, man, I'm doing pretty good.
Good, man. Yeah, it should be another fun week here, Keeping It Strong Style. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about this week.
I got to tell you, it is definitely a blessing. I thought it was bad at first, but it's a blessing that this KOPW announcement didn't come out until after we recorded last week's episode, because if I had responded to that live, holy crap. I've had a week to reflect, and I think I'm a little more docile in my opinions and views this week as opposed to last.
Nice. Well, that's going to be the first thing on the docket. So we had 2 press conferences last week. We had a press conference in Japan, a press conference here in America for a lot of stuff going down in the future of New Japan, and both New Japan proper and New Japan of America. And of course, we watch these press conferences and Summer Struggle using the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It will take your NJPW World experience to the next level. Visit njpwext.us today for details.
Absolutely. So, we're going to start this week off hot. We're talking about a new announced title. This was discussed this past week during, what was it, Monday's press conference?
Yeah, I think it was Monday night or Tuesday, one of those early in the week.
Yeah, so the King of Pro Wrestling title. Jeremy, tell us, about this big secretive announcement. And also, I feel like last week's episode didn't get we definitely did a good job. We're still the Ace podcast, but like by the time the show came out, we were sitting here speculating about what Okada's announcement would be, making predictions, and we were maybe not even we probably weren't far off, but in a way we were. And I don't know how much shelf life that episode has now that this freaking title got announced. Kind of spoiled everything.
It's all good. I mean, there was a lot of stuff we covered that was time sensitive last week. But yeah, let's talk about this KOP title. So last week we had the press conference. Kazuchika Okada explained his new titles, his Okada's idea, the KOP 2020 title. He explained that wrestlers will be competing for the title and pick the stipulations for the title match. Then the stipulations would then go to a fan vote. So beginning on August 26th, 8 wrestlers will square off in a first round set of 4 matches. The winner.
Hold on. Before you announce this, you have to do the obligatory old school Jim Ross or Tony Schiavone. It's really simple, ladies and gentlemen. Let me explain.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real simple sassafras. So let me explain this to you. So the winners of those 4 matches will move on to a fatal 4-way match at Jingu Stadium on August 29th. That match will not have a unique stipulation, as they'll explain that it will just be a fatal 4-way match, which is obviously pretty unique in itself for New Japan. The winner of the Jingu Stadium match will be declared the provisional champion. The provisional
not the champion, the provisional champion.
Right. There will be no physical championship. The provisional title will be contested until the end of the year, where one final title match will take place. The winner of that match will then officially become the KOPW 2020 champion and receive a trophy. And then the process will then start again in 2021 to crown the KOPW 2021 champion.
So a couple of my questions. Number one, KOPW, this is Kazuchika Okada's Pro Wrestling. Is that correct?
Well, it's his idea, so that makes all the sense to me.
My second question, how pissed is Minoru Suzuki that they're trying to take away the title that he has held for the last 30 years, the King of Pro Wrestling? They're trying to make this shit into some real. This is like when Harley Race was the King of the Ring, and then they're like, we're gonna have a King of the Ring tournament. It's like, wait, I'm already the king. How y'all gonna how are they gonna have a tournament to determine the King of Pro Wrestling? Suzuki is already the king. I feel like the real what should actually happen here is you are the provisional champion in your rinky-dink little tournament until you fight Minoru Suzuki and take the King of Pro Wrestling title from him.
Right. At the end of every year, you face Suzuki at Wrestle Kingdom.
At the end of the year, you get a chance to fight him like he's Goro or Shang Tsung. That's what you win. That is you get a title opportunity at the reigning champion, Minoru Suzuki.
All right. So,
oh man,
you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I mean, we can just discuss. This is a safe space for us, Jeremy. It's just open discussion. So for a few weeks here, Kazuchika Okada was, explaining in his post-match comments about how he had this new title, or that he had this announcement, and it was going to be very controversial for older fans, older wrestlers, but that he thought it might be fun and exciting, And I think we were pretty optimistic, like, what could it be, But then once I woke up in the morning and I started reading, and the thing is, like, you had to read. I had to read it like 5 or 6 times just to understand what this even was. And then once it dawned on me what we were talking about, my stomach absolutely sank. And every time I talk about this, now, I would like to preface this by saying this is not a doom and gloom sort of thing. There's some upside, but there's a lot of downside. But regardless of that, my personal feelings, even if this ends up being the best thing in the world, my stomach feels sick because this is not my New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, man. I read, like you, I read the news release and caught up on the press conference in the morning, and Yeah, like I read it over several times, and I saw a lot of people, immediately burying it and having a bad feeling about it. And initially, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I'm at the point now. We got Evil as a double champion. A lot of interesting booking decisions being made. I kind of feel like Gato has just bent us over, and now I just got to take it. So I wasn't necessarily like, I was just kind of apathetic about it. I was like, okay, this is happening. All right, this is what we're doing now.
So you're saying you've made peace with it? Like, a lot of times when people are like passing on, they talk about how like they come to this point of like acceptance, and it's like, are you just accepting your fate? Is that what's happening here? Like,
I think so. So initially, I'll start off negative and then try and come to some positives. So first of all, I don't think there should be. I hate promotions that have tons of titles, and I think New Japan already has way too many titles. It's probably hard to tell right now because they're all tied up or vacated or they're on somebody who's injured. But in a normal time period, New Japan already has too many titles, and there's
we could get some of those titles back over in Japan if people in the States start wearing their masks. God,
yeah. And so the idea of another championship, even if it's provisional, whatever you want to call it, it's like we already have so many titles that we could utilize to main event some of these Cork and Hall shows and mix things up. And so the idea of just another title, I'm just like, do we really need this additional title and trophy to throw out there? Especially with the whole, gimmick match associated with it. And I've always kind of been a firm believer, and I know you are too, of, stipulation matches should be saved for big feuds. I personally have always hated in WWE what they've done the last several years, where you have Hell in a Cell, you have TLC, you have Survivor Series, you have whatever.
Elimination Chamber,
that's a better one. Yeah, and so you have all these like gimmick pay-per-views, and so it's December, it's TLC, we have to do a ladder match, we have to do a table match, we have to do a chairs match, we have to do a TLC match, all on the same show, and you're not building rivalries to that point, but you're just doing it because it's December, it's TLC, you have to book that pay-per-view. And so I'm not really a big fan of, doing stipulation matches just for the sake of it and not really building up feuds and matches for it. But as I try to think of the positives of this, so, as we look through these Corkin shows, and especially this stretch, we've had like 14-something Corkin shows, and, a lot of the cards have been very, very similar with a few matches changed out. And, after seeing Evil and Dick Togo and Taiji Ishimori versus Naito, Bushi, and Sonata for 12 times in a row, it's like, geez, how many times do I need to watch these same matches over again? And with this KOP title, this is something, with all the titles mixed up right now, that you could throw on a Corkin main event, and it could be fresh, something different. It could lead to a great matchup and actually a great main event instead of kind of a repeat multi-man tag that we see on and on throughout the tour. And I don't know. I feel like with some of the stipulations that they're going to do, and I know Okada's mentioning things like ladders and cages and all this stuff, but I feel like, especially for like a Corkin show, we're going to see more wrestling-based stipulations. I think we're going to see some submission matches, maybe some 2 out of 3, maybe even like some kind of knockout style matchup. And as
I heard they're doing an electrified cage.
They could be doing that, but as I think about it, I'm like, in a vacuum, what sounds more interesting? Potentially like, I don't know, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kota Ibushi in a submission match, or Bullet Club versus LIJ for like the 10th time in a row.
Nah, man, that's a straw man. That's a straw man's argument, because that's what they call a false dichotomy. You're presenting those two options as if they're the only two options. There are many other options that are better than both of those things. Don't try to tell me I can only have vanilla or chocolate. There's a whole range of flavors out there, Jeremy. No, I agree with a lot of your points here. So some of the things I don't like about this. I'll start with just the formatting, and a couple of things we do need to address. There's a lot of flack that, say, Gato is getting for this, and Gato is an ECW mark. He is a Memphis mark, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if this was like something he's always kind of deep down wanted to do and like never really had the opportunity to do it. And he's like, this is the perfect time. No one cares anyways. We're going to sell these buildings regardless. Might as well try something. But more so the rumor is that Kazuchika Okada in kayfabe as well as a shoot was the one who kind of came up with this idea. And I don't think that's impossible. That might be the case. I do think it's interesting, though, that every time Kazuchika Okada doesn't have the IWGP title, it's like his brain cells like go fried, or like he just does something crazy. Like before it was the balloons and the music. And I think we need to close the show out with Kazuchika Okada's broken music for sure. But it's like they don't know what to do with the guy because he's not surrounded by the IWGP title, and it's like they don't want to they don't have the other belts, and if they did for right now, they don't seem to be inclined to put a white belt on him or put a never belt on him. So like, you know what we need to do? New title. give him that shit. The other thing too is kind of like you mentioned, Jeremy, there's a lot of belts and a lot of tournaments in New Japan. Now, one positive I have here is that this isn't the end of the world. This is hypothetically New Japan trying a new concept. Now, I'll tell you, I hate this concept. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not looking forward to it. But I've been a fan of New Japan long enough to know that they've done not anything like this specifically, but they've tried a lot of things in the past over the years. 6-man tournaments, U30 belts. They had the G1 used to have a totally different format when it was the IWGP deal. They've done all sorts of weird and wacky things. Obviously, the shoot stuff. It doesn't always last, and so there is a good chance that maybe this is something they do once. Now they're talking about like they're going to do it annually, but I'll tell you what, I don't see them being able to do it annually. Yeah. Now, if they do, go ahead.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention too. I feel like they've left the door open to immediately just scrap this by making it a yearly thing instead of it being a physical title. With it being KOP 2020, 2021 can come around and be like, you know what? This was a dumb idea. Let's never mind this happened. Let's move on.
Well, here's one thing that a lot of people are bringing up for the future, but they're not bringing up for the immediate. And it actually kind of gives me pause for concern. A lot of people are like, oh, well, they're going to do this, after G1 next year. That's what they're like, oh, so you get this cool, fun, exciting thing that fills the slog of time after the G1, so everything's not so boring, right? I'm sitting here thinking like, but they're talking about doing this during this year's G1 or the supposed G1 that we were like probably going to be getting. How is that going to work? How do you have your provisional champion, whoever that might be, probably Okada? Are they going to like, is this kind of like is this like the linear title where like it gets defended regardless of what type of match it's in? Like, are we going to be seeing G1 matches where like Okada comes with like his own stip and then like Yoshihashi comes with his own stip and then they decide and then like we get G1 matches that are not just for the points but also for the provisional title?
I don't know. They haven't really made that clear. I mean, obviously the champion will be crowned before G1, but in my head, I'm just thinking that, all right, he's the champion going into G1, and then after G1, he would have his first defense. But who knows? With the way this year's going, maybe they do try and mix the G1 up as well.
Bro, I was like, this year's so wacky. What if the provisional champion wins the G1, and then we have a King of Pro Wrestling match at Wrestle Kingdom in a gimmick match between the IWGP champion and whoever the King of Pro Wrestling is,
Yeah.
Also, if you win a quote unquote provisional championship, does that go on your record, or is that going to show up on your Wikipedia page? How prestigious is this shit? Like, my problem is that, you want to have stakes in a match, but this company already has how many heavyweight singles titles? Basically 4 plus 1 junior title, so that's basically 5. Then you already have 2 major singles tournaments throughout the year, plus any other minor ones that might pop up, plus the best super juniors. This is going to make this like the 6th most important title probably, and like the 4th, like the 6th most prestigious singles belt and the 4th most prestigious tournament. How important could that be to someone like Hiroshi Tanahashi?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like a lot of people are saying too, the main event guys are not going to be in it. This is something, cool for the mid and lower cards the guys to do. And I'm like, well, first of all, Kazuchika Okada is like the guy that's like the face of this thing right now, and that's
right.
The top, that's ace. And then like, why do we need something else for the mid and low card guys? Like, eventually it's going to almost turn into like a WWE 24/7 title, where it's going to have a bunch of geeks wrestling for this thing.
Maybe. I mean, we don't know that. I think that is our Western mindset, thinking that it's going to turn into a joke or whatever.
Well, I'm just saying, like, but if main eventers aren't going to be in it,
right?
I feel like some top guys are going to be in this thing in order to keep it up.
Well, part of the thing is like, they're saying that Okada came up with the concept when Will Ospreay told Okada about the Proteus title in
Progress.
What is it? In Progress. And the concept of that title is like the champion has his own set of rules while he's the champion. So like, let's say if Keith Lee's the champion, then it might be like a mega heavyweight title. Only mega heavyweights can win it. And then maybe Walter beats him for it. And Walter, all his matches in the future are KO only and no rope breaks. That's what the title becomes, whatever the champion makes it.
Right.
That's kind of the idea of how Okada like came up with this concept. But he went like, broken Okada with it. And he's like, we're going to have Stips. We're going to have Taboo Tuesday for every single match. It's going to be like Cyber Sunday. It's going to be crazy. I also don't understand how they're doing the voting. I don't think we're going to be able to partake in this voting. It sounds like it might either be done like online like the night before or live. I don't know.
Yeah, I know in the past I've used like that Line app in Japan for some of the fan voting.
I heard it was going to be Line. That's what I heard. Line voting, whatever that is. Oh, man. So, I mean, here's another thing. Think about all the illustrious titles that you've ever heard of in the history of professional wrestling. Every major program that you've ever thought of that actually mattered. Every single really, really like historic tournament. Usually it doesn't include some sort of gimmick where guys had to all come up with different gimmicks and then it had to be voted on and then they had to advance onto something and then it was another gimmick and then they go into a 4-way. Nothing that convoluted has ever been regarded by anybody in any company as being like a good thing. And this sounds closer to like Battle Bowl than it does King of the Ring. It's less like G1 and more like, some DDT sort of stuff. Like this is not something that's going to be remembered favorably. Another thought I have about it. Yes, there is the possibility that this changes things up. And yes, there is the possibility that there are some good matches that come out of it. My main issues with it are basically this. New Japan Pro Wrestling has always presented itself as being a sports-centric product. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have goofballs or characters or promos or gimmicks. They do. But it is a far cry from what you see in the majority of wrestling promotions around the world. When they do have gimmick matches, and there have been many, I mean, they're not plentiful, but there have been numerous gimmick matches of all styles in New Japan through the years. They've been rare. They've only happened when a story or a feud calls for it, or when it has significant meaning, and it's a spectacle. It's special when it happens. Suddenly, we're going to go straight from basically having almost none, like no gimmick matches, to suddenly we're having 4 back-to-back and then another one, and then probably a monthly gimmick match or several. That takes away from the prestige of whatever gimmick matches you're doing right off the bat, immediately. The other thing, too, is how good could they possibly be when the stakes are so low, because it's not a prestigious thing to win at all.
Right.
And when there's no story leading into it. Now, I'm sure some people are going to have stories like the barn burner of a feud that has been Okada and, Yujiro. I mean, can't forget that one. But, there might be some minor stories into it. But how important could Zack Sabre Jr. submission match be in the context of the tournament? Like, it really can't. So even if the action is good, it's going to be good in spite of the bad booking and in spite of the lackadaisical and lazy nature of this whole thing. I'm in favor. I would love for them to do some gimmick matches here and there in New Japan. It's 2020. Why not? Do it. But book around it. Tell a story. Draw some asses to some seats. Some eyeballs to some TV sets. Don't just do this. This is, hypothetically, if this thing sucks, this might ruin gimmick matches in New Japan for a long time.
Right.
Kind of like how people don't want to see shoot wrestlers in New Japan because they're afraid it's going to be like the Dark Ages, when in fact, sometimes you include that sort of element, it could be badass, but you do it the wrong way and you ruin it for everybody. I guess that's pretty much all I have to say about this.
I mean, I just don't know what would be like a wrestler's, besides Okada, because clearly he's motivated. What is everybody else's motivation to, challenge or throw their name in the hat for this provisional title instead of going after the double titles, going after the never title, trying to, fly to Vegas and steal the U.S. title from Jon Moxley? What's the big, how like you're mentioning, it's not that prestigious. So why would I, as a, in kayfabe, go after this provisional title and not try and go after one of the other titles?
Maybe long term you end up getting a title shot of some sort at the end of it. Maybe they'll reveal that. Who knows?
Yeah.
A couple other thoughts I had. There was something where a lot of people are saying, well, this is new and fresh and it's going to, be exciting. And at least we're not going to be getting a bunch of multi-man matches. And I'm like, why did we need this to not get multi-man matches? Why couldn't they just book feuds?
Right.
Look how awesome. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, yeah, exactly. Suzuki and Nagata.
Yeah, look how awesome Suzuki and Nagata has been. You can't tell me that if they wanted to just run some feuds and do singles matches, there doesn't even need to be a title involved. Just good wrestling, that people wouldn't be excited about it. It's funny, James Boyd on One Nation Radio mentioned this past weekend. He said, this is called the King of Pro Wrestling title, and it's anything but, like, when you win it, you're anything but the actual king of pro wrestling because you're doing a bunch of gimmick matches. So it's not really true, authentic pro wrestling. Like,
right, yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah, and, at the end of the day, like, this is just not New Japan. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, like, New Japan is about sports-centric, in the ring, one-on-one combat, like, who is the better wrestler, and that guy is at the top. And so this is definitely feeling very Western. It's feeling very WWE.
It feels DDT.
Yeah. It feels like TNA. I feel like, TNA every year would come up with some, different gimmick title, the Grand title, the Legends title, title, that title.
Absolutely. It feels like that. Or like Gift of the Gods, although Gift of the Gods was kind of cool, but it sort of feels like that. Like, I don't know, man. Part of me is sort of like, maybe Kazuchika Okada's like, dude, I'm not having the best year in ring, starting to slow down. I need some gimmicks. Cody, it works well with Cody. It works well for Cody.
He calls up Matt and Nick. He's like, man, guys, I'm just in a creative rut right now. They're not putting the belt on me right now. They put the belt on Evil.
Shingo and Hiromu are passing me up in the polls this year. I need something to catch up.
And they're Matt and Nick's like, well, have you been watching Dynamite lately? Like, Cody Goes out here, he does all these, his gimmick matches. He always blades. Like, maybe we should try that.
They're like, well, Cody's wrestling a lot of new, young up-and-comers and, giving them a lot in the ring. And Okada's like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather work with you, Jiro. You got anything else? And they're like, well, he does a lot of smoke and mirrors. He pulled some thumbtacks out the other day. Ding, 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 ding. That is exactly what Okada is looking for. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Matt. Love you guys.
Oh, my gosh.
And, oh, man. Yes, I'm not excited about this. I don't know why the IWGP committee didn't nix this one, but this is going through, so I guess we better just get ready. But
and you notice it's not called the IWGP KOPW title. So this is, to me, it's not sanctioned by the IWGP.
This is called the Kazuchika Okada Presents, the King of Pro Wrestling provisional title. That's what it is.
All right, well, we got
I think it should be called the KOPW. Kakapow.
Well, we had a lot of questions here from listeners about the KOPW title. Let's get into them.
I think we expressed a lot of our opinions on this. So when we go to these questions, we probably answered a lot of them, but we'll go through them quickly because we got a lot to cover this week.
Yep. So first from Reddit user PSan91, what kind of gimmick matches do you think we will see from the KOPW title? I know Okada mentioned cage matches, but it seems a bit too WWE for me. I would prefer to see more things fitting with New Japan, such as Iron Man matches or submission matches.
Ooh, great question, PSan91, and that's the one point I knew I was forgetting something and I wanted to mention. They are in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, especially because of Okada's big mouth. Okada mentioned the ladder matches. He mentioned steel cage matches. He made it sound like they're going to be doing anything is up for grabs and on the table. My problem with this is the fact that they probably will be doing a lot of New Japan-centric singles match variants, knockouts only, submission matches, falls count anywhere.
2 out of 30.
2 out of 3 falls, Iron Man, stuff like that. If they just do that, then what's the point of this title to begin with? Why isn't people doing fluorescent light tube matches and Piranha Shark Tank matches and Cactus, who knows, like all this shit, GCW, door matches. So it's like they have those options in front of them, and the people aren't taking advantage of it. That's stupid. On the other hand, if New Japan ends up just doing a bunch of crazy death-defying matches, gimmick matches, that's stupid too. They are damned if they do, damned if they don't. Who the fuck knows what kind of gimmicks Kota Ibushi is going to want to do with his DDT ass.
Kota Ibushi probably loved this. He heard it, was like, oh, what? A word? We're doing DDT now?
Yeah. Everyone thinks that this is Okada's deal, but really in the back, just kind of behind a barricade, there's Kota Ibushi, and he's like, I'm doing a fireworks match.
Oh my god.
I couldn't tell you a single gimmick that I really actually want here. I know a lot of guys are probably going to work to their gimmick and have things that are their signature match. How about beat someone's ass? That's your signature match. Pin someone's shoulders to the mat for the 1, 2, 3. That's your signature match. I don't care what they do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards more, like I mentioned earlier, hopefully more like wrestling, New Japan-centric based matches like PCN is mentioning. But like you mentioned, then it's like, why did Okada mention cages and ladders and all this stuff? But yeah, I'd like to see a more straightforward as possible, but we'll see what happens here.
Tuxedo match.
Oh my gosh.
Coal miner's glove on a pole match. Brass knuckles match.
Eye for an eye.
Eye for an eye match. Chamber of Horrors match. This is what we need in our New Japan.
Yeah. Next question here from Tomda24. Who do you want to be the first KOPW champion? For me, it's Yano. Who do you think will be the first KOPW champion?
Dude, who's even in this?
It hasn't been officially announced yet.
Oh, okay. I don't care. I want it to be I want it to go away. So maybe Yujiro.
Oh my go.
Yoshihashi.
Yeah, there we go. That can be Yoshihashi's first title.
And then they'll have to retroactively say it wasn't a real title, so he's never actually held a title.
Yeah, let's go with that.
I don't care who it is. If it's Yano, it's gonna get over. So no, I don't want Yano.
Let's put it on Goto because he's a geek.
Bro, I'll tell you what. Maybe Hama can do death matches again.
Oh my god. Hanma and Desperado.
Yeah, bro. I don't care. How about Dick Togo?
Next question from Reddit user Viking Pain. Do you guys think the KOPW thing is just an excuse to do cinematic matches and jump on the fad?
I don't think they're gonna do anything cinematic. Well, they've already done, bro. Go watch Inoki and Saito on the Island Death match. That's the original cinematic match, and it's like 2.5 hours long. Feature-length film. I don't think they're going to do cinematic matches. This might just be like them trying to catch up because New Japan is so far behind. They need to update with the times and start doing gimmick matches. Like, they're not jumping to cinematic matches. They're just going to do bull rope matches and Russian chain matches, shit like that, you know?
Yeah, I'd be flabbergasted if Gato came out here and booked some, Firefly, Funhouse, Boneyard, Swamp match on a Cork and Hall show or, King of Pro Wrestling, Power Struggle, or whatever. So I don't think we're getting cinematic matches.
WWE is in 2020, and New Japan's just trying to get to, 1986, Jim Crockett territory. They're so far behind. They need to catch up with these gimmicks, right?
Yeah.
Agent Wallaby asked us, how much yen do I need to throw at Gato to get Okada to come out here with a light tube bundle and make the King of Pro Wrestling gimmick a bunch of death matches? Yeah, bro. Who knows? Maybe they'll be like Big Japan. They'll be like the strong style division and then the death match division.
Right, and then you can start a partnership with GCW. You can, bring over, Nick Gage and Chris Dickinson, Matt Tremont, Jimmy Lloyd, Effie, yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah, that sounds good. Hey, maybe they'll sign ACH and Leo Rush because none of the American companies want to do it. Talking about you, AEW.
Oh man.
Next question from King WD510. He said, do you guys think the King of Pro Wrestling title stipulation matches should be held more on Road 2 shows? I always thought Gato should keep his more American style booking on the Road 2s and make them more interesting than a bunch of multi-mans. But I definitely don't want to see a bunch of main eventers in this thing.
So this is kind of like what we were talking about.
And I feel like there's opinions, even just in our questions, some people are joking. Some people have hard feelings about it. Some people like it. Some people don't. I feel like the opinions on this thing are kind of all over the place, really.
Yeah. And it's kind of what I'm talking about where you say he doesn't want to see a bunch of main eventers in it. Well, if a bunch of main eventers aren't in it, then it's not important. And it's why do we even care about it?
Yeah, the problem is the wrestling in New Japan is so good. They're going to fuck around and get this thing over, and it's going to be great. I'm going to be pissed.
And yeah, I don't think that, like you mentioned, they did not need to do this title to change things up. They could have easily said, you know what, Desperado, you guys are going to have, 3 shows of multi-mans, and then we're going to blow it off with one big singles match, just like they did with Suzuki and Nagata. They could have been several of those.
Bro, all they have to, instead of doing 4 or 5 Road 2 multi-man tag matches, you could just maybe expand some of those matches. So instead of saying 3 mans, maybe they're 5 men. Maybe do 2 of those. Then maybe have some tag matches. We always talk about this company doesn't have a tag division. Build a fucking tag division. Have some tag matches. And here's a crazy idea. Have some singles matches. I mean, I know we just got Nagata and Suzuki, but it took forever to get to that. How come I can't get Gabriel Kidd and Makabe already? Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? That's a feud that I'm invested in and I care about. I don't care about Okada coming out here having a balloon stip versus Yujiro's pimp stip. Whatever those 2 matches would even be.
And here's another. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I don't care if it's on the main shows or the Road to shows because I watch all of it because it all does matter, and now it's all gonna have this shit on it.
Yeah, and here's an idea. How about you break up the double titles and use the IC belt where it's supposed to be and have it, main event shows? How about you vacate the junior tag title since Yo tore his ACL and try and do something there and have the junior tag titles main event a show?
Man, this feels like some WCW shit, like Battle Bowl or, the Lord of the Ring or like World War III. Remember when Russo and Bischoff came back and made everyone vacate their belts and then like reset the company? That's kind of what this shit feels like. It don't feel right. This feels wrong.
Next question here from the Maple Leaf Wrestling History Podcast. Does New Japan have any popular gimmick matches from the past? And if so, what would you guys vote for in the future KOPW title matches?
Well, I think we've already kind of mentioned our thoughts on the match stipulations. As far as popular gimmick matches from the past, they've been few and far between. Honestly, they really have been. The mixed style fights, which are sort of like a early proto take on MMA or shoot wrestling, those were big draws and pretty popular. The 10-man elimination matches, have always been very popular, as well as the 10-man or 12-man gauntlet matches. So as opposed to having all 10 guys, all the two teams start in the ring, you start with 2 guys in a singles match. And then whoever wins, the next person's team member comes out, and so on and so forth until the other team is eliminated. Those were very popular back in the day. There have been a lot of like death matches where it was like knockouts or submissions or 10 count standing sort of rules, but that's about it. There've been some steel cage matches, there've been some exploding barbed wire death matches, but they're pretty few and far between.
Yeah. And then also, you can look back at Suzuki's 2017 Never title run where he was doing several gimmick matches within his Never title defenses. That's
right. There've been a lot of those what are they called? Lumberjack death matches. Quite a few of those. Yeah. He had some chain matches too.
Yeah, then there was the big match with Goto at Wrestle Kingdom. I think it was billed as the hair versus death match, right?
Yeah, it was hair versus hair. There have been a few of those. There have been some chain matches in the company, and then obviously Kenny Omega's ladder match with Elgin. And, no DQ matches have become more in vogue recently with some of the Western stars. We saw, a Texas death match at Wrestle Kingdom this past year, but nothing too crazy, honestly.
Right.
Unless you want to count those 2 island death matches I mentioned. I hope the King of Pro Wrestling is decided on an island death match.
Last question here from Rob Clark on Twitter. Do you think Okada could be about to turn heel?
I don't think so, just because Evil just turned heel, but it's 2020. Who knows?
I mean, creating this title, he's already turned heel. Yeah. For business reasons, I don't think, like you mentioned, just had the fresh Evil turn. I don't think that Okada's turning anytime soon.
Well, thank you for the questions. I think that is going to that's going to do it for our coverage of the King of Pro Wrestling title. Let's move on to our next topic. Let's talk about Summer Struggle in Jingu.
Yeah, so also in that same press conference, we had 2 big title matches announced for Summer Struggle in Jingu. We had the IWGP Junior title match announced as Hiromu will defend against Taiji Ishimori. And then we will have the rematch of Evil defending the double titles against Tetsuya Naito. And also a note on Hiromu. He's going to be missing the rest of the Summer Struggle tour due to a shoulder injury, but they believe he should be good to go for Hiromu at Summer Struggle in Jingu.
That's a work.
Yeah, I mean, based off the
angle.
angle.
I don't know if it is.
I don't know. I feel like with the whole angle they did on last week's show where Ishimori put him in the yes lock and he was out of the match selling the shoulder, I feel like it was a work to kind of build sympathy for Hiromu. And then, going into the match, you kind of give him, he has to fight from underneath because he has a shoulder injury.
Possible. They also could just be taking advantage of an actual injury and being smart, which is something they haven't always done this year, but maybe, some classic New Japan booking here.
We did have some questions about some of these matches. First, from Reddit user Brian James Interactive. How do you think New Japan will do at the Jingu Stadium show, given that it's a 35,000 seat arena at 1/3 capacity, so potentially a maximum attendance of 11,500, same as Ryogoku, and the main event has only just happened at a major show?
Well, my question is, did they say it was for sure a 1/3 capacity? Because I thought part of the brilliance of them doing an outdoor Jingu Stadium show was that they could have a higher attendance due to the fact that it was outdoors. Am I wrong in that?
So I haven't heard. So this is the one thing I didn't really hear in the press conference or when they announced this show that it was going to be 1/3 capacity. I think we're all assuming that's been the protocol and that they would do that for the Jingu show as well.
Yeah, I don't know this. It's not confirmed, but I was assuming one of the big advantages of them doing an outdoor arena show was that they didn't have to do 1/3 capacity. Now, I don't think 1,200 people or 11,500 is anything to sneeze at. I think New Japan does that easily. Now, you do have the Hiromu and Ishimori match coming up. You got Evil Naito. It's hard to say, but I'm guessing we're probably going to get Dangerous Tekkers, Golden Lovers. You're probably going to get some sort of zany gimmick King of Pro Wrestling match that will probably involve Kazuchika Okada. So all that together, I don't see any reason why this brand in an outdoor arena for the first time in 21 years in a place that they don't always travel to doesn't sell out,
Right.
I mean, it seems pretty easy to me. Yeah. Also, Naito's beloved, and if people believe that they're going to get the opportunity to see him get his comeuppance and be part of history again and see him win the title again, I think that's going to draw.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to the Kenta situation where people love Naito so much and were so angry at Kenta. In this situation, they're angry at Evil, and they want to see Naito get that comeuppance. We saw how well that show drawed with Naito versus Kenta. So I think we're in a similar situation here.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
He also asked, as a long-term fan, the past 3 main events having major outside interference has, for me, for the first time, questioning keeping up with the product, and certainly has my desire to watch live waning. Obviously, one person's opinion is just that, but I'm curious whether you think such an approach has the potential to really alienate large parts of their fan base in Japan, given the New Japan main event scene being strongly inspired by the purist King's Road style in recent years.
Well, man, you're preaching to the choir here. I think the whole idea of what they're trying to do is basically a long-term play. I think long-term they're hoping to establish Evil as a future main eventer, not unlike what they did with Jay White. And I think that they were hoping to create enough buzz for this big show that's coming up by creating some sort of, wrong that needs to be righted by Naito, something for him to chase. And to some degree, they might have successfully done that. I mean, if at the end of the day, from a business standpoint, this all works out for them, great. I mean, I wasn't in love with the creative of it at all, and I'm never probably going to be because I don't agree with Evil being pushed as a main eventer. But there might be some positives for how it all works out for them from a business perspective. I still am very wary about running in any sort of meaningful way with Evil long term, but I think that's what they're trying to do here. And if all that ends up happening long term is Evil gets 1 3-month title reign and then he's kept off that shit for like at least 2 years, I guess I can live with that.
Yeah, pretty much in the same boat as you. You know, I would love the main events to, get back to the high quality that we're used to. But clearly we've beat we've beat the dead horse here with Evil and how we feel about him and his matches and his whole main event push. So, like you said, here's hoping it's a short-term thing. Naito gets the belt back and we can get the main events going back in a better direction.
I mean, when I think of the titles that I have, the time periods of different world titles that I've loved the most, it generally involves prestigious title runs with prestigious matches occurring, and big feuds. And so I completely agree. I'm not opposed to outside interference. I'm just opposed to it being overdone, especially when the perception is that it's kind of being done because it's being used to cover up the inherent flaws of one of the performers.
Right.
So next question from world_B_free. He says, what is your take on the idea that Naito is better when he's chasing the title than actually having it? And why is that viewpoint constantly regurgitated on Reddit?
That's an interesting question. I just think it's one of those things where there are some guys who are better on the chase, and I think we've seen that. We've seen how passionate the LIJ fan base has been over the last 3 years, and we're really rallying behind Naito winning the title and beating Okada in the Dome. And so obviously that was that kind of a big arc and story, and I think people are saying that Naito's better in the chase because that's mainly what we've seen. We really haven't seen what a Naito on top and not chasing really looks like. So I think a lot of people are like, well, he's better at the chase. Well, yeah, he is good at the chase, but we haven't seen what really happens when he's not on the chase.
You want to hear my completely off the top of the head? I didn't look at any of these questions, so I didn't prepare anything, but this is just off the top of my head, on the spot, Josh's viewpoint on this. Every single babyface ever in the history of wrestling is better at chasing unless they are being pushed as the absolute top guy in the company. Period. Try right now, Jeremy. Try to give me the name of any babyface that you can think of that wasn't the tip-top guy in the company when he was champion that was better at quote-unquote chasing. Sting, better at chasing. Goldberg, better at chasing. Kenny Omega, better at chasing. Macho Man Randy Savage, better at chasing. Anybody who was like a good guy who was champion, who was seen as being better at chasing, it wasn't always necessarily that guy's fault. Ultimate Warrior, better at chasing. It's when the company wants to let them be the top guy. He's not Okada, so he's better at chasing. That is the real answer. Now, here's the thing. There are other things you could say about Okada. You could be talking, about Naito, about Naito's character, his attitude, the level of his work over the past years, the deterioration of his body. Those are all valid points. But it wouldn't have mattered. If they put the title on him back in 2018 or 2017 or whatever, he still would have been better at chasing because they're not going to push him like Okada. Same thing happened to Kenny Omega. Anybody who is a face that they put the title on, they're going to be better at chasing because the company is not going to get behind them and give them the kind of booking that Okada got.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. But as I'm like rolling through my head of previous world champions and other promotions, even New Japan, that's a great point.
Now, that's a generalization. I could be wrong on that. I mean, there's no one here on the air to argue against what I'm saying. And I didn't do any research, so I'm sure if someone really thought about it. But I mean, dude, when Bret Hart was allowed to be the man, he was the man. When Shawn Michaels was allowed to be the man, he's the man,
Right.
But when someone is not when it's Daniel Bryan and he's not allowed to be the man, he's better at chasing.
Right. When it's a Dolph Ziggler who's, world heavyweight champion.
Yeah. I guess they're better at chasing. They're better at chasing because you don't want to book them like your guy, like John Cena, or like Hulk Hogan, or like Kenta Kobashi, or like Samoa Joe, or like Danielson in ROH, or what have you, Ric Flair in the 80s, Kerry Von Erich's better at chasing. He wasn't a strong champion. Well, you guys didn't make him a strong champion. the booking really does matter.
Man, that's a great point. I definitely want to do some more research now, looking back at some of these past champions, just kind of seeing.
Could Naito be seen as the top guy if they just let him be and I'm not even advocating that he should be. I'm not a Naito mark. I'm just saying the logic of it. If Naito had been given a year-long reign, then people would see him as a year-long champion. But instead, he's had two title runs, 2 successful title defenses, you know. He's better at chasing.
Right.
Well, you didn't give him any good booking. You didn't give him a feud to stick his teeth into, or a personal vendetta, or any sort of length with the belt. So, I mean, whose fault's that?
Right. So last question here from Kevin from DC. He says, where will your level of interest in New Japan be if, and that's a huge if, Evil retains the belts against Naito at Jingu?
Oh, we're already at rock bottom, Kevin. So, I mean, can't go much lower. We only got, up from here to be. This is a win-win. We can only go up. So, I mean, if Evil retains, I'm exactly where I've been all month, at the bottom pits.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, and if Naito wins, then we start climbing up that hill.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if Evil retains, I don't think my interest level will dip any lower than it's at right now. But I will say, I mean, I still have some other parts of the promotion that I'm still interested in. Like I mentioned before, I like the Never Seen. I like Shingo's Never Run. I think that's been great. I like Golden Aces and Dangerous Techers. I like the push of Hiromu. Suzuki.
Why don't you save it for the year end or the half year report, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm spoiling my thoughts here early, but yeah, I mean,
can I tell you one thing though? I was kind of joking there. Here's the real truth. If Evil wins, it all depends on his performance. If Evil and Naito got there and put on a 5-star classic and shut my mouth about how Evil doesn't deserve to be there, then I could actually be happy. But if they go out there and they do what they did at Dominion, boy, oh boy. I was bluffing about my interest. My interest could definitely go down. We got a lot of ways to go, and we've only just begun.
Oh man. Well, all right. Let's transition to something that's a little bit more positive. I think you're excited about it. I'm excited about it. And
oh, bro, I'm so excited. Are we going to count New Japan of America as a different promotion as New Japan, because they might actually have a chance at still winning Promotion of the Year if it's just New Japan of America?
I don't know. I think I've seen a lot of people, counting it as its own promotion.
All right. So we got New Japan of America winning the Observer Awards, followed by AEW. And after that, Stardom.
So on Friday, we had a press conference about New Japan of America, and they officially announced NJPW Strong, which we talked about last week, which there was a teaser for at the end of the last episode of Lions Break Collision. So we will have New Japan Strong, which will be a weekly series on NJPW World featuring talent of New Japan of America that will air every Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. The first show will be on August 7th, and it will feature the opening round of the New Japan Cup USA, which will be a single elimination tournament featuring 8 NJPW wrestlers currently in the United States. The opening rounds will feature Carl Fredericks versus Kenta, Jeff Cobb versus Tangaloa, David Finlay versus Chase Owens, and Brody King versus Tama Tonga.
You know that song by Miley Cyrus, Party in the USA?
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, when I hear this, I hear, like, New Japan Cup in the USA.
Oh, my gosh. That's hilarious.
Yeah, man. This looks pretty awesome. Side note, I can't say where I was or what I was doing because it's sort of personal information. But regardless, I spent a little brief amount of time with Tangaloa this past week.
Nice. Did you get some deets on this tournament?
No, but some other individuals that I kind of know. They actually told me that this is all actually already occurred, and that they did some tapings, and they wouldn't tell me who won anything. So
good. You don't want to be spoiled, man.
I would like to be spoiled. I would like to know all the answers and then come on the air like I'm Vince Russo and predict accurately everyone that's winning, because I already know who's winning.
Well, the semifinals for this thing will be happening August 14th, and the finals will take place on August 21st. The winner of the tournament will be able to challenge the IWGP United States champion, Jon Moxley.
No, they will be able to challenge for the IWGP United States title, which happens to currently be held by Jon Moxley. Those are two different things, sir.
Well, on the press conference when I watched, they said, I guess they said they'll challenge the IWGP U.S. champion at a future date. I can't remember if they said
they're going to challenge for the U.S. title, whoever that champion possibly might be. I'm wondering, like, what if they win this thing and then Moxley vacates, and then who do they fight for the title? Does it get handed to them like they're Asuka? They just get handed. Oh, you didn't know it, but when you won that tournament, you also won the title. Here you go.
Yeah, I'm thinking, Eric Bischoff, 2002, when he's revealing the world title he creates a world title for Triple H. The winner is going to be there in the ring. Then, somebody's going to come out. Chris Charlton's going to come out with the belt, the black bag, and just hand the belt to the winner.
The velvet bag.
Yeah.
Red velvet. My favorite thing is that they used the same design as the NWA title and then the later WCW title. They used the exact same belt. They called it by the same name. They're like, this is the world. Remember when the WCW title was they're like, WCW's dead, so now it's just the World Heavyweight title.
Right.
Then later they brought out a new World Heavyweight title. Same belt, same design, same name. And then they're like, but it has its own lineage. It is not the same belt. But then for forever after that, WWE, every time they would talk about the lineage of that World Heavyweight title, they'd show Harley Race and Sting and Ric Flair. And I'm like, it's not even the same belt. That shit started in 2002 with Triple H.
Right. They'd be like, great legends held this title like Ric Flair. I'm like, he did?
Like Batista and Edge. and Khali. Ron Garvin never held that belt, sir.
We have a lot of questions here about the U.S. MJPW New Japan Cup USA and New Japan Strong. So first question here from Rainbow Slam Pig. How great would it be if Brody King won the NJUSA Cup and began rampaging through New Japan like Godzilla in Tokyo? I think Kenta is winning the tournament, but a fella can dream.
Yeah, man. I'm 100% behind that. I love monster heels, and Brody King is a guy that could be like a great Gaijin monster heel. We haven't had someone like that in a while, and I'm all about that.
Yeah, I would love Brody King. I've been a big fan of his work, especially the last couple of years, getting to see him more in action. And yeah, once the borders are opened up and we can get Gaijin over there, I would love Brody King to run rampant over there. And I think he would be a great kind of surprise winner of this thing, but I don't think he's going to end up winning.
Yeah. Speaking of monster heels, I was listening to the Thomas Island podcast recently, and they were talking about one time where Fale was in the back and Elgin was calling all these moves he was going to do to him, like give him a Falcon Arrow and all this stuff. And after he got done running through his whole set in front of the whole locker room, Fale just looked up and goes, I don't take those kind of bumps, bro.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Anyways, great question for him, Bone Slam Pig. Next question from Viking Pain. He said, any info as to why Jay Whito isn't in the U.S. New Japan Cup? Is he in New Zealand? And I don't know the answer to that. Do you know?
I don't know 100%. So, last couple of weeks, we've seen Jay White post pictures on his Instagram here in our lovely city of Tampa, Florida, off of Bayshore. And then we saw the Instagram post, the 725 of him in the air. So Not sure if he was flying to these tapings. Not sure if he was somehow flying to New Zealand. I don't know exactly where he is. Maybe they just didn't want Jay White in the U.S. tournament. Maybe they see him kind of above the U.S. division, and maybe he will be on NJPW Strong feuding with somebody else, but just not in this U.S. tournament.
Well, one thing you got to take in consideration, let's say he is available. Jay White is obviously a heavy favorite at that point to win something like this. And unless he's going all the way and fighting Jon Moxley, or unless he's taking a very meaningful loss that's going to have, long-term, lasting effects on the booking, there's no reason for him to actually be in this thing. So he may be here, he may be not. But regardless, I don't know if having Jay White in the tournament, other than to add his name and prestige to the, his legitimacy to the tournament, I don't know that there's any good reason. And then, probably the Jay White haters out there are like, good riddance. Keep him away from our New Japan of USA. He's not even American.
Next question was very similar from ZD in the Discord, asking any reason why Jay White wouldn't be in the New Japan Cup USA. He's in Florida, isn't he? So we've pretty much talked about that. Next question from Reddit user Just a Little Bear 01. If NJPW did a Lions Break Collision / Strong taping in Tampa, what local talent would you want to get a look?
Oh man, that is a great question. So I mean, if we're talking local talent, so not New Japan talent, but like our boys,
yes, in our streets.
Okay, so I mean, Jeremy and me are big fans and supporters of the OAO. OAO. That is Hunter Law, Troy Hollywood, and Snoop Strikes. You may know you may know him better from MLW as what was his name there?
Koto Brazil, as a part of Injustice with Myron Reed and I'm forgetting the white dude's name in their stable right now, but that guy or Jordan Oliver.
All three of those guys are like some of the top workers in the country. And when I say that, I'm not even saying that facetiously or with any bit of sarcasm. They're three of the best workers in the entire country. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, they are incredible. Yeah, if you can YouTube these guys, try and find some of their matches. Like, these guys are great, great wrestlers.
I mean, we never get asked about local stuff, but I have an affiliation with a group of wrestlers that are training out here in the local area. So some guys that I think should definitely get a look at, friends of mine, freaking Tony Donati and Fabu Andre. They've both recently been featured as enhancement talent on New Japan or on AEW Dark. Train here locally, two of the better wrestlers in the area. I think that those are two guys that could definitely be utilized.
Yeah, one guy I would love to see is the technical alchemist, David Mercury. He's one of the trainers at the Lethal Academy here in Tampa, Florida. And this guy, you talk about, technical wrestling. This guy is so smooth. We've seen him tear the house down with guys like Jay Lethal and other, Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling World Title matches. And this guy's awesome. He's a guy just so technically sound in the ring. He'd fit in perfectly.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and Jeremy and Rich as well. What's up, Rich? We'd spend $7 to go see a local indie show here, and we'd see him wrestling on there. We're like, is he raw as hell? And are we paying $7 to see this guy on a Sunday afternoon? What the fuck? Some of the bigger name talent that's in the area that you definitely got to consider. Matt Seidel, obviously. Mm-hmm. Jay Lethal, obviously. I'm sure they both got nothing going on with COVID. I don't see Ring of Honor running. I don't see, Matt do anything with any other companies right now. If they ran shows here, why not have them? Both of them are New Japan alumni. I mean, that would make all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah. Another name of the local guy, the Authority, Eddie Torres, a big hoss, kind of striker guy, been in the Florida scene for a long time now. Really solid worker. He would.
If you're talking about hosses, John Davis.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, John Davis. Do Torres versus Davis in a strong style match. That would be awesome.
I'm trying to think if there's any. A good friend of the show, Jamie, just loves Tracer X. I don't even know if Tracer X is from here, but he wrestles here all the time. So.
I think he's based in North Carolina. He did wrestle on one of the New Japan shows, The New Beginning, when
didn't he wrestle O'Karn?
Yeah, he wrestled the Great O'Karn.
So yeah, maybe we could get Tracer X up in here. I don't know. Those are the names that come to my mind immediate. Oh, Culture Inc.
Yeah,
those Culture Inc. guys are really good. If you guys haven't seen Culture Inc., you should check them out. They're really freaking good. But yeah, those are the names I would think of. That's a lot of names.
Yeah. All right, next question from Reddit user Ogre Knee. Do you guys think with their big name Gaijin stuck in the States, we see more exchanges with Impact, ROH, and possibly AEW, since Moxley is defending and the Good Brothers are saying they are in New Japan soon?
Well, I misspoke the other week where I said I didn't think we were going to see some of these West Coast based or East Coast based New Japan guys wrestling on these shows. Obviously, I was incorrect on that matter. But as far as talent exchanges with some of these other groups, I think it's going to be case by case, and I think it's going to be a lot rarer than anything else. Maybe not so much with Ring of Honor since they have a working relationship with them. But I don't see it too much with Impact at all. I don't see it too much with AEW at all. And the only reason I would say maybe we'll see some with MLW is because a lot of those MLW guys have pretty much open contracts. And I mean, those contracts seem to be written on toilet paper. Like people can just get out of them. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, ROH does make the most sense. Obviously, they've said several times the partnership is not over. We're seeing ROH star Brody King in this tournament. So, Strong is going to be a weekly show. And, Ring of Honor has not run a show since they shut down for the pandemic. So, I'm sure there's a ton of Ring of Honor guys that are, twiddling their thumbs and want to get back into action. So, could we see
Brian Melonius
and the Bear City Bruiser, the Bouncers?
Yeah, the Bouncers.
I was gonna say somebody like Jonathan Gresham. You already mentioned Jay Lethal. There's guys like that.
Marty.
Don't know about that one, Chief.
Why? Why? Something happened?
Let's move on. Next question here from Why Did You Do That, Bro? Do you think New Japan can get Moxley to wrestle in an empty arena US show to drop the belt to the NJCUSA winner?
That is a great question. And maybe that question should lead us to a discussion of what we think is going to happen with this, with these brackets, because that's got to be one of the key considerations as to who you think could win this thing. Because if hypothetically one of them are trying to wrestle Jon Moxley, is he even going to be able to? Is he going to be allowed to wrestle on a New Japan show on New Japan World in the States? And B, is there anyone here that could hypothetically even be believable to beat him for that belt if that was the direction that New Japan's trying to go? Those are two things we got to really consider.
Right. Well, first to address, whether or not John will be able to show up on NJPW Strong. What I feel like since NJPW Strong is not going to be televised in the U.S. and also there's going to be no fans, I don't think it should be seen as direct competition to AEW. And I feel like Tony Khan would want Moxley to just go ahead and drop the title, not have to worry about it. And I feel like he would send Mox over there for one taping for a big match, get the belt off, and then maybe never wrestle there again.
But that's not the old school way of doing things. If you're the world champion in one company, you're not going to job out and drop the minor title, the literally the fourth, number 4 title in your one of your competitors, even if it's not on a cable station. It is for market share of the wrestling economy that's out there.
Right.
I don't know if that's realistic.
Well, I guess maybe they wait until Mox drops the title. Maybe Mox is losing to MJF at All Out in September, and then
after that promo Wednesday night, I don't see how that might not be the case. That's definitely a possibility.
Right. So maybe they wait until Mox can drop the title, the AEW title, and then he can go over to Strong and face the New Japan Cup winner.
Dude, this is Gato's fault. He's the one who put the title on this, man. They had a perfect opportunity with Suzuki. Take that shit off of him. We could have been having Suzuki and Nagata U.S. title matches this whole time, but instead, Mox is over here on TV without the red belt, mind you. That red belt has yet to be seen. We haven't seen that shit since February. We don't even know if it exists anymore. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know if Jon Moxley. I'm not saying he wouldn't be willing to do business, but this is the Pac when Pac was the Dragon Gate champion situation all over again. I mean, any self-respecting booker and champion knows that you don't drop another less prestigious title, and if you do, I mean, I don't know. The only thing that makes me think maybe they could do it is if they do it quietly, but I feel like that he's too big of a name. It would actually like be a huge boost for New Japan.
Right. It would blow Strong up. Like, I think even more people would be tuning in to Strong if Jon Moxley shows up.
Bro, if I'm Tony Khan, there's no fucking way that happens. Like, I'm not giving you all the good charity. You know, they are going to have Mox drop the belt, whether it's at this next pay-per-view or some other in the future. And you think I'm going to build up all this goodwill just so my dude can turn around and do a job on your TV station before he does one on ours? Even though it's not a TV station, still on your program before he does it for us? Hell no. Hell no. It's not happening. He's vacating that shit.
All right. So whether he's vacating it or not, who do you see as the winner of this thing?
I really don't know. I think there's some really interesting brackets here. I'll tell you who can't win. Dave Finlay cannot win. Chase Owens cannot win. Tangaloa cannot win. But I think everybody else could.
Yeah.
To varying degrees.
So Carl Fredericks, what's your thoughts there?
I think Carl is someone that they have really built this program around. They elevated him. There is the possibility, hypothetically, maybe, he's facing Kenta in a match that was planned for the New Japan Cup originally. And we didn't know he was going to be graduated by that point. Who's to say he wasn't going to beat Kenta back then and that was going to be his big superstardom launch? On the other hand, with him taking losses to, or a loss to Jeff Cobb, I think it's perfectly reasonable that he loses to a guy like Kenta, has a great showing, and maybe has future dates with him down the line.
Well, they could. If Fredericks does upset Kenta, with Cobb and Fredericks being on the same side of the bracket, you could run it back and have Fredericks-Cobb rematch.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that we get a Cobb-Fredericks rematch. A very good chance of that. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways they could go with this, man. I think Carl Fredericks has a good shot at winning it, but I think Kenta and Jeff Cobb are two huge obstacles to get over. And then likely facing a Brody King or a Tama Tonga on the other side of things is, just a third monumental task. I think that's too much for Carl. I think I don't see him winning this thing. I think if he upsets Kenta, that's enough of a star-making performance to where he doesn't need to win this whole entire thing. But I think Kenta gets past him, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, I think Kenta is going to be the guy that takes this all.
It makes the most sense. I mean, why not?
Right. I mean, I think looking at this list, I would say Kenta is probably. Would you not agree that Kenta's the biggest name out of all these 8 guys?
Kenta's the biggest name. He's got the most success in the company, even in the short time that he's been there. He is a guy that hypothetically, if you did want to try and approach Jon Moxley with a big name, that's a name that you could hypothetically, offer him. That wouldn't be a complete and total insult. So, yeah, I mean, and
Bullet Club's Kenta, hot right now.
That's the other thing I was thinking. So Kenta makes a lot of sense. It might be too on the nose, but I mean, yeah, Kenta's that's a really, really good name. Plus, we haven't really had any sort of, and it's kind of the running joke. There haven't been any Japanese champions that have been U.S. champion. It's only been the white man.
So yeah, Kenta could be the first one to break the mold here.
Aside from that, we got Tangaloa and Jeff Cobb. I don't think Tangaloa has a chance at this thing, but Jeff Cobb is another guy that they've kind of built around. And he's also a free agent right now, and he wants to work more dates for New Japan in the future. He is someone you could actually go with in this situation. Plus, him and Mox got history.
Right. Cobb came in on AEW to be, Jericho's hitman to take out Mox, and they had that match on Dynamite where Mox just barely escaped by and beat him.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that is going to play into things, but I mean, who knows? Cobb. I don't know, man. Cobb is a guy who, AEW was trying to get signed. If maybe that's someone that hypothetically they could do business with John Moxley and everything. On the other side of things, I like Finlay. I love Chase Owens. Those are two guys I don't think really have a shot at this personally. I think Brody King is a great person if you want to take him to the finals, or if you want to set him up as a challenger to lose to Mox. But I don't see him as being a U.S. champ just because he's unsigned and he's a Ring of Honor guy, basically.
Right. Yeah.
But he's a good candidate for a B block finalist.
Yeah, you could do, Brody versus Kenta as a final, or Brody versus Cobb, kind of a big hoss match there.
Or Fredericks if he happens to get by everybody.
Right, and like you mentioned, that would be like that last obstacle for him to get over.
Now, here's one last thing to throw out there. I do think Tama Tonga is a dark horse candidate. He's the least likely of the people that I see, but they're not going to be going back to Japan for a while. They don't really have a tag team division in this company right now. There's nothing for GOD to do, and Tama Tonga is a guy that is an ambassador for this company. He's been an OG riding with them for a long time. His podcast is doing very well, and he might not be the worst person to potentially be another U.S. champion. Again, the Bullet Club thing. Am I crazy on that?
No, I think Tama Tonga is just one of those. I think we just picture him so much as this tag team guy, especially after last year where he's like, I just want to focus on tag team wrestling. But you made a great point. There is no tag titles currently in New Japan of America. So what are you going to do with GOD? I mean, you can do just random tag matches, but there's not going to really mean much. So, yeah, I mean, you could have a surprising Tama Tonga winning the whole thing. Tama Tonga versus Cobb, Tama Tonga versus Fredericks in the finals, and then Tama Tonga takes it.
My finals... You know what? I know I'm speaking out of my mouth here, but I'm just going to say fuck it. My final is Carl Frederick and Brody King.
Nice. You going big on the Alpha Wolf.
I don't know, man. He's not as young as people think he is. If they're going to pull the trigger on him, just pull the trigger on him. He actually was featured this week on the New Japan Official podcast as well, and he had some interesting things to say.
Yeah, I heard that.
I like Carl Fredericks. He's got a dangly earring. He's got some tassels. Fuck him up. Let's do it.
I love Fredericks too. I'm just not that confident that they're just gonna go with him all the way right now. Maybe they will.
I'm not either.
I think it'd be cool if they did, but for right now, I'm going Kenta Brody King as my finals.
Brody King is so imposing as a finalist guy that I think the best story that you could tell is having an underdog like Fredericks against him. And then you have an opportunity to make either one of them. Yeah. Regardless of who you go with.
Yeah.
Next question. Let's move on. Was it...
So we left off at King DW510 in the Discord. Says, do you guys think the pandemic might be sort of a blessing in disguise for NJPW US in the long run? Because this weekly studio show seems to be a lot better than doing the sample size touring they had planned out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we talked about their touring method and how it was very antiquated and, not on the nose for what's needed in this kind of environment marketplace. And a show like this, while it's not ideal, it's a better step in the right direction. Reminds me a lot more of what New Japan was doing, what the NWA was doing with Power. In fact, I would like to see them borrow some more elements from that sort of program. But yeah, I mean, we don't know what strong is going to be, but I do think in a sense it might be a little bit of a benefit to them.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about this when we talked about the American expansion and when they brought the map out, and it'd be a better idea overall if you just did, 4 big shows and how important it would be to get weekly TV and get a weekly TV show. So I like this weekly show. I hope it's something that sticks around for quite some time and that it can grow and it could be something cool, when we can get fans back at shows, like go to those towns that you have mapped out and do strong tapings in those towns.
Dude, off topic, I just got a text from my girlfriend, and she said that they just announced something called Raw Underground. I can't wait.
Oh my gosh.
Next question from Oscar Rooney. He says, with Westerners now able to wrestle New Japan Strong from 1 to 10, how stir crazy is Ospreay being stuck in Europe? Let me just say this. This man is so stir crazy that after just a few weeks of quarantine, he wrestled his girlfriend in an empty arena. So who the fuck knows what Will Ospreay after 6 months of not wrestling is like?
Well, there have been reports about him, being depressed, and I think there were a couple of suicidal.
I wasn't gonna go that way. I wasn't gonna go that way.
But I mean, I do think it is affecting his mental health, and I know a lot. He's not, a big fan of a lot of people with just all the allegation stuff going on as well. But yeah, it does seem like he's having a very hard time right now.
Listen, I hope that all joking aside, I hope he has a strong support system and is able to kind of get through whatever personal struggles he has during these trying times, and is able to return to do what he loves and what we love to watch him do.
Yeah.
Kevin from DC says, which belt do you see Moxley dropping first, the AW championship at All Out to MJ Mother Flippin' F, or the US belt at whatever show features him versus the winner of the Strong tournament? I think he's going to drop the U.S. title first via forfeit. I think he's going to vacate it.
Well, since All Out is right around the corner, it's
is it?
September 5th, and I think, this tournament, will finish probably like the weekend before All Out, so it's possible he could vacate before All Out, but I'm going to go ahead and say that he drops a belt to MJF at All Out before he drops or vacates the U.S. title.
Now, here's the thing. You're assuming he loses MJF. Now, if he retains against MJF,
then he's definitely vacating.
In my opinion. So I think I'm still right either way, even though I didn't realize, that All Out was so soon. I also don't know when his 90 days is up. I know someone on Reddit posted about it, but I think I don't think that's too far away anyways.
Oh, the 6-month limit as champion?
That's right, his 6-month limit. Although I thought it used to be 90 days in New Japan, and then they changed it to 6. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I know in the last couple of years they've talked about the whole 6-month thing. That's why Jericho was able to hold the IC title for so long with only 2 defenses.
What's funny? They've had other people that have been injured before and unable to make a defense, and they've made them vacate almost immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
But right now, we know that Sho and Yo are going to be indefinitely on hold because of Yo's injury, and they're not making them vacate. And it's only because they don't know what to do in the meantime.
Right.
Like, they got 6 months plus time added.
Well, they did say, like, for Hiromu, they said, due to the pandemic, they're extending out the 6 months because Hiromu had a junior title defense.
Right, but there was times where, like, different guys, like Evil was injured and they made them vacate like the tag titles, or like Mox couldn't make it because of a natural disaster. Oh, you got to come off that shit real quick. Not consistent, man.
So one last thing related to New Japan of America. There's also one other name besides Jay Whiteo that was missing.
Juice.
That's right.
Juice
Robinson. So right after this tournament was announced, New Japan put out that Juice Robinson is currently unable to compete due to a right leg injury. So due to that right leg injury, he's not going to be able to be a part of forthcoming NJPW Strong broadcast and will not be able to take part in the New Japan Cup USA. So
you know how that man injured his leg, right?
Doing some extracurricular activities.
It's what we've been saying about Juice since day one when this podcast started. Juice fucks. That's how he messed up his leg.
Oh, man. So now we have...
also, I want to say, I know he is for sure because he came off that dopey-ass half afro and that Fu Manchu Village People mustache, and boy, oh boy, is he looking dapper. I mean, I'm straight, but dang it if...
Well, hey, man, he saw Tony Storm and he was like, I need to clean up. If I want to...
Bro, Tony Storm made him a changed man. He's ready, bro. He's ready for an IWGP title run. Let me tell you.
So next topic we're going to talk about is the Never Six-Man Tournament. So this was also announced this past weekend. We know that...
I'm not... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What?
No, I'll make my point. You can do the formal thing, and then I'll do the funny thing.
Okay. So we know that Shingo, Evil, and Bushi were the champions, but they're obviously vacating the title due to Evil's turn. And in a backstage promo, Evil said that he didn't want to, obviously had no desire to keep the championship. So a tournament is going to be held this week to determine new Never Openweight six-man tag champions. It's a single elimination 18 tournament. Starts on August 6th, and the finals will be taking place on August 9th. All events being held at Corkin Hall. You
know how all those memes start with like a girlfriend who's mad? She's like, I just think it's really funny how...
Yes.
and then ...
Yeah.
I just think it's really funny how Evil talks about how he has no interest in holding this title, so he's allowed to vacate it. But my man Naito couldn't do that shit with the IC title, like I suggested months ago, and we wouldn't be in this mess where the titles are all tied up to, in a double title.
Well, in kayfabe,
I just think it's real funny.
In kayfabe, Naito wants to defend them both just separately.
My other problem is I was hoping that this was going to be a very WCW-esque sort of situation. You remember when Sting joined NWO Wolfpack, but then he was tag team partners with the Giant, and Giant went NWO Hollywood, and so then they had to split the titles, and then they had to fight each other to determine which one got to be the true tag team champions, and then they could pick their own champion. That's what I wanted them to do. I wanted Evil to get his boys, and I wanted who were his partners to begin with? I don't remember.
Who he would team up with now in Bullet Club?
No, who were the champions? It was
Evil,
him and
Shingo, and Bushi.
Okay, I just didn't know which LIJ members were with him. So I was hoping maybe Bushi and Shingo could, either pick Hiromu or Naito or Sonata or whoever, and then they could face off to determine who the true six-man champions were. That would have been a lot easier. Now we got a multi-night tournament. That's another funny thing. This company, they run out of ideas. They don't know what to do. They're missing some titles. They're like, I got an idea. Let's have a tournament. Fuck it. Let's run 3 at the same time.
I don't know, man. I love tournaments, and I'm actually pretty excited about this Never tournament.
You're excited. We just talked about how the King of Pro Wrestling tournament is for like the least prestigious title, but we forgot to mention that they're running a tournament for the 6-man titles, and you're like, I'm excited.
So let's talk about some of these teams here. So on August 6th, we'll have the Chaos team of Okada, Toriano, and Cho taking on the Bullet Club team of Yujiro, Jado, and Gato.
So you tell me I got to watch Yujiro and Okada wrestle again?
Yes. And you have to watch Jado wrestle again as well.
You're also telling me that someone thought it was a good idea to put Jado, Geto, and Yujiro on the same team in a tag team match. Has there ever been a worse trio? Has there ever been a worse trio in the history of professional wrestling?
No, I think this pretty much qualifies for the worst 6-man unit ever.
Holy fuck. I mean, I love Jado and Geto. I do. Just not in 2020.
Well, they don't care. 30 years is biz.
This shit is cooked. Another tag team we got Sonata, Shingo, and Bushi.
Yep.
Got to be heavy favorites.
Yeah, taking on the Suzuki-gun team of Minoru, El Esperado, and Doki.
Yep. Another tag team on August 7th. We have a match. Bushi, Tanahashi, and someone who's exactly on the same level as them. So I don't know how this team's even going to take pins, but Master Wato.
Yeah, and they're taking on another Suzuki-gun team of Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Yeah, it's a powerful team there. Kota Ibushi, Tanahashi, Master Wato, the blue golden aces.
Bro, I got to assume that whoever made these teams had to have been from the IWGP committee, because there's no way that Suzuki-gun decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to split Suzuki, Zack, and Taichi. Because if they would have kept Suzuki, Taichi, and Zack together, they would have run roughshod over this tournament. Instead, they're like, no, we need some pin eaters on each side. We got to keep it fair.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there. And then also on that night, we have Tomioka Hanma, Togi Makabe, and Ryusuke Taguchi taking on the Chaos team of Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi.
I wanted to make a joke and say Hanma, Makabe, and Taguchi are, team Just Have Fun. But I mean, almost that exact team has held these titles together before.
Right.
Just change Hanma out for Ishii. For Yano. So this is kind of an interesting concept, and it's not one I totally hate. A little mini tournament. We got a bunch of 6-man tags. We're gonna crown a new champion, and the fun thing with, depending on your opinion and how you view it, the Never titles can be held by anybody. So we could either be seeing like the top team in the tournament, like a monster team, or we could be seeing like a goofy team like Yujiro, Jado, and Geto hold this shit, and it really don't matter either way, honestly. Kind of like the King of Pro Wrestling title.
Yes, the Never 6-man titles, are on the low part of the totem pole here in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and those belts normally switch hands very quickly, like hot potato. But I have a hard time seeing Yujiro, Jado, and Geto getting out the first round here.
I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying anything can happen because it's the Never titles and it doesn't matter.
Right.
It depends what story they want to tell. This is just a keep busy deal. Let's just go through it real quick. So I think obviously you think the Chaos team is beating Bullet Club team night 1, right?
Right.
I'd agree with you. So what are we thinking when it comes to LIJ versus Suzuki-gun?
This is a hard one here. So you have on both sides. So there are pin eaters on both sides, Bushi on the LIJ side and Doki on the Suzuki-gun side, but Doki is very small. It's very further down the totem pole than Bushi, and we've seen anytime Doki's in a multi-man tag, he's eating the pin. However, there is one interesting thing to think about. I know we're going to talk about Suzuki Nagata a little bit later on, but post match, Suzuki said he's doing something. He has something planned for what he wants to do next. So we could have Suzuki pinning Shingo in this match that could set up a singles Never title match from possibly Jingu.
I'm ready for that. The other thing I was thinking is if Suzuki moves on to the next round, then there might be some heat with him and Okada over the King of Pro Wrestling title moniker.
I think he will be more worried about Toriano. There's some old beef there that he might want to take care of.
There's old beef there. There's always going to be beef there. That's eternal. So, yeah. I don't know, man. It could go either way. I'm going to go just keep it spicy. I'm going to go Suzuki-gun here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Suzuki-gun also. So that would put Chaos versus Suzuki-gun there on that side of the bracket.
Which I think a lot of people see as a shock because the previous two of the 3 guys on the LIJ team, were the previous title holders. I think the laziest thing you could possibly do is put these Never belts right back on LIJ. They could do that easily, but I think that would be the most uninspired decision out of all of them.
Right. At that point, they should have just said, Freebird rules, and they took the belt from Evil and just gave it to Sonata.
The only reason they might not wanted to do that is they're like, dude, these Road 2 shows are killing us. We need we need to change it up.
Yeah.
August 7th, we got Ibushi, Tanahashi, and Master Wato. What'd you call them? You call them
the Blue Golden
Golden Aces?
The way to the Grand Aces.
Oh, I love that. The way to the Grand Aces. Yes. Completely get rid of the golden shit entirely. Like,
Yes.
make Ibushi the afterthought, just like he's kind of been this entire year.
Damn.
So we got them against Dangerous Tekkers and Kanemaru. My concern here, obviously, you got two pin eaters in Wato and Kanemaru, but with Wato, I think the idea at some point was to kind of elevate him, and they kind of just slot him in as like a slightly above Doki sort of status in this company. We've already seen him take pinfalls. I don't think that's the best way to get this guy over, man. I really don't. He's a new character. He talked recently on the New Japan website during his interview about how he had originally planned to come in and initially challenge Hiromu for the title. Well, that ship has long passed because this guy's been getting beaten in multi-man matches, and I don't think they should do that again, but unfortunately, I think it's a possibility.
Right. I guess it all depends where they're going, really, with the Dangerous Tekkers Golden Aces story. So we know the whole story now is...
Nah, fuck that. It's about Kanemaru and Wato. That's what this story's about.
We've seen that Tanahashi and Ibushi, they've both been wanting to pin Sabre or Taichi so they can get another shot at the tag titles. And then also we've kind of seen a little friction between Ibushi and Tanahashi, and Ibushi kind of being a little disappointed in Tanahashi's performances, and Tanahashi, crying, saying, "I'm trying my best, and I want us to win. I'm trying hard, Ibushi."
Bro, that's how I feel every day. That's what I have. That's like my internal conversation that I have with both of my personalities. Like literally. We didn't talk the other week about when they were leaving, like when they won their multi-man match, and on their way out, Tanahashi, like, instead of like hugging the people and like wiping their sweat, he would like point at them and then hug himself, and then like it is like the cutest thing ever in the history of New Japan.
Dude, that's why that man is number one baby face in the world.
Yeah. Well, this will help me. So on the next side, we've got Hanma, Makabe, and Taguchi versus Ishii, Goto, and Yoshihashi. So I mean, the winner of this match is going to go on against those guys. Does it make more sense to have a heel team like Suzuki-gun go up against one of those two teams, or could we do an all Hantai / Chaos sort of mix? I'm going to call it right now. I think the Golden Aces are winning just because I think they need something to set up their future title shot. And I don't think Wato should take another fall. So I'm going to say Golden Aces and Master Wato win here.
Man, I'm so conflicted here, man. I think it can go either way, but I'm gonna ride with you. Way to the Grand Aces are gonna win.
Nice. So finally, we got Hanma, Makabe, and Taguchi against Ishii, Goto, and Yoshihashi. I think Chaos is winning here. It could go either way, but I mean, one team's looking a lot stronger than the other. So
yeah, I think it pretty much has to be the Chaos team here.
So let's move on to the rest of the tournament real briefly. So we got the main event. So the semifinals. So we've got Okada, Yano, and Sho. We're both predicting Suzuki-gun. So who do you see winning there? Okada, Yano, and Sho, or Suzuki, Desperado, and Doki?
I'm gonna say Suzuki-gun.
I'll follow you just because it doesn't matter, and I don't really have any in-depth thoughts here. So Suzuki-gun, and then after that we got Way to the Grand Aces versus Chaos, and it's like, who's taking that fall? Is it Wato or Yoshihashi?
I think it has to be Wato. He's a junior, and he's new.
That makes sense. So on the final, but at the same time, it kind of depends. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So fine. Okay, fine. So I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. So Ishii, Goto, and Yoshihashi against Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, and Doki. Are you thinking Yoshihashi's winning his first belt in this company? Because I can't. I literally won't stand for that.
I think he is. I think Chaos is going to walk away. Ishii, Goto, and Yoshihashi are going to walk away with these 6-man titles.
How dare you? That is a disgrace. let me tell you right now, Minoru Suzuki, El Desperado, and Doki are winning these Never Six-Man Tag Team titles. Doki is going to hold gold in New Japan Pro Wrestling before Yoshihashi ever fucking does. Mark my words.
I don't know, man. That Chaos team's a pretty stacked team.
Yeah, but it's Yoshihashi, and Yoshihashi doesn't win gold.
Neither does Doki. So
Nah, Doki's never gotten the chance. When he gets a chance, he comes through. He's clutch. I really don't know. I mean, this tournament can go, bro. This tournament's not predictable at all. Like, it could go any number of ways. You're probably right, but who knows?
we'll see. So we had 2 questions here. First from Rambo and Slam Pig. He says, Jado, Gato, and Yujiro are a team in the Never Six-Man tournament. Do you think the ring can hold all that dynamic energy, or will it collapse before Jado finishes his 5-minute walk from the back?
This is essentially, I don't know if you ever saw an episode of SmackDown, but there was this really classic episode of SmackDown where Brock Lesnar suplexed the Big Show off of the top rope and destroyed the entire wrestling ring.
Yeah.
That's basically that's what you got when you got Jado, Gedo, and Yujiro together.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to be able to handle that trio, that energy that they're going to bring.
Next question from J Tom 46. We're just gonna kayfabe it. J Tom 416 says, "Are we all in agreement that Suzuki is pinning Shingo, and is this finally Yoshihashi's time to win a title?" Well, looks like he's got his finger on the pulse, because those are 2 things. Did you read his comment before you made your predictions? Did you steal from him?
I did not steal from him. I thought that there was a good chance Suzuki would pin Shingo, and then his question came in after I had my thought. So I did not.
I don't think he's pinning Shingo. I think it would be more likely that he could. I think it would be more likely that maybe he wins the match, or actually, they don't even have to win the match. A post-match brawl, regardless of who wins, could easily result in in a feud and a match between them.
Right. So yeah, I think we're going Suzuki Shingo, regardless of who wins. But I could see Suzuki either pinning maybe Bushi or pinning Shingo.
Hey, we are getting messages right now in the group chat telling us to turn the show off and go watch Raw right now. Do you want to go look and see what it is and pause for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. So unfortunately, we took a break there just to kind of like try and go see what was going on with Raw Underground, because people were blowing us up in the mentions, and we missed it. I came out there, it's just Street Profits, and I'm just gonna have to catch it tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what all the hubbub was about. I mean, Underground, they should be wondering what's going on under in their pants and making sure that everything is, clean and tidy under there using the Lawnmower 3.0.
I was like, where are you going with this?
We got to plug our Manscaped, man, the Lawnmower 3.0. The new and improved ball trimmer from Manscaped. They spent 18 months perfecting this thing. We've talked about that for several weeks now. It's the Omega Okada of razors.
Yeah, absolutely. Their 3rd-generation trimmer features cutting-edge ceramic blades to reduce manscaping accidents. Manscaping accidents are finally a thing of the past. I fired up the Lawnmower 3.0 this morning, and when I tell you it's premium, I mean it's the best. Battery will last you up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. The water-resistant technology allows you to groom in the shower. One of the best things I like about it, they have a feature with LED light, so you can get closer shave, more precise trimming, and kind of just see what you're doing down there.
Yeah, and also they've upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. If you are hearing us talk about the Lawnmower 3.0, we want you to experience it firsthand. We want you to go to manscaped.com, use our promo code SUPLEX. You get 20% off and free shipping. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using our code SUPLEX. You support Social Suplex. You support Keeping It Strong Style. You'll support yourself because you'll be grooming and taking care of all that business and preparing for whatever comes your way.
It's the best deal out there, guys. Take advantage of it. Let's talk about Summer Struggle, July 31st, which closed out the wild and wonderful month of July. That is New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yes. So we had Summer Struggle opened up. We had Hiroki Goto, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, and Yoshihashi, defeating the team of Gabriel Kidd, Ryusuke Taguchi, Satoshi Kojima, and Yota Tsuji via Yano with a schoolboy on Yota Tsuji.
Match number 2, the Los Ingobernables de Japón team of Sanada and Shingo defeated Togi Makabe and Tomoaki Hanma via Skull. And one quick thought, is it just me, or is Hanma looking a lot healthier and a lot better in the ring than he has, like, in forever?
You know, I saw you mention that in the group chat, and honestly, I don't know. To me, he feels about the same. Like, to me, I was watching this match, and he was kind of bumbling around. There's some spots that were kind of missed, especially with him and, like, Evil. And I don't know, man. I think he's about the same.
There were some botches at the end of the match, but for some reason, he just looks stronger and healthier. Like, he just seems better. I'm not saying he's ever going to be what he was, but he just looks better to me. Anyways, match number 3, we had Suzuki-gun team of Doki, El Desperado, Taichi, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Zack Sabre Jr. defeating the Golden Aces team of Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kota Ibushi, along with Tenzan, Wato, and Uemura.
Yes, and we have a few questions here involving the Golden Aces storyline. So first question from Reddit user WhoDay42. Where do you think they're going with the Golden Aces story? Do they just win the belts back? Do they blow up and have a fight at the January 4th show, or something else?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. I mean, I think the thing there is, if they were to regain the titles, speaking of the Golden Aces, they're kind of back in the same position they were before. It's like, who do they have ready to face them? What's a compelling story for two guys of their stature? Versus if you have a heel team like the Dangerous Tekkers kind of in the driving seat, they have a variety of different opponents that they could potentially face. Also, this thing could even, I'm not saying I am advocating for this, but it could extend out to a trilogy long term. I don't know. But I like those ideas you threw out. I like the idea of a feud between the Golden Aces. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to them getting the belt back. I honestly am in a position right now, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think it could go either way. There is obviously a great story there, and then winning the titles back and actually, maybe having a little bit of run with it. And then there's also a story, they've been telling with Ibushi, being frustrated with Tanahashi, and maybe this is the thing that gets Ibushi out of this tag team. And it's like, you know what? I thought I wanted this to be in this team with my hero, but really I just want to focus on me and go singles. So that's always a possibility as well. Next question we had from Reddit user Viking Pain. He says, heel Kota Ibushi, yay or nay?
I don't know. Yay?
I don't know. I feel like with Evil and a Bullet Club, I feel like, and we have Suzuki, and I feel like we're really heavy on, the heel, side of things. And I think we could have a split between Ibushi and Tanahashi. I think it could lead to a match, but I don't think it necessarily means like Kota Ibushi's going to be, this all of a sudden this super prick and is going to start cheating to win. Maybe he's more aggressive. Maybe a slight, maybe more just kind of standoffish to baby faces, but I don't see a full out heel turn here.
I mean, I don't really care. I mean, I think Kota Ibushi is great in the role of face, but the thing is he needs to. I'm at a point where I'm ready to see them actually put the strap on the guy. He's done almost everything else that there is to possibly be done in the company. He's held every single title that's out there virtually. He's won almost every single tournament. He's told a lot of different stories. It's time to go with him. And if you're not going to do that in a face capacity, why not let him stretch his wings and try out being a heel? I'm not opposed to that at all. So, I mean, I'm not advocating for it, but sure, I'm cool with it.
Next question from Reddit user Agent Wallaby. When will Ibushi finally reach his limit with the so-called aces, narcissistic tendencies, and skadoosh this man and throw up some Suzuki-gun gang signs?
I think a lot of that stuff is sort of like us as fans sort of like interjecting our feelings or stories, our insights on the story. Not to say that it's ever wrong, but it's like I don't know necessarily that they're specifically telling a story about Tanahashi being a megalomaniac or a narcissist or anything like that. They could go that way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly what they're telling. Oftentimes they just throw a little bit of dissension in there, and that's about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I really haven't got the vibe of narcissistic tendencies from Tanahashi in the backstage promos or anything in this storyline. I think more the key is just the fact that they've been losing and have not been winning is kind of the big issue here.
The thing with New Japan, what I've noticed, and it's kind of beautiful, is like you only know what the story truly is once they decide to tell it. And that might sound very basic in what I'm saying, but what I mean by that is you can try and follow the trail, but until they like pull the trigger and say, and like blatantly tell you, okay, this is the story that we've been telling, you don't really fully know. You know what I mean? You look at the Evil storyline, you kind of saw him doing heelish tactics, showing a more rugged side during the New Japan Cup, but until he like went full heel and joined the Bullet Club, you weren't entirely sure what the story really even was. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that happens a lot in New Japan. So you can pick up on elements of a perceived story, but until they commit to it as the bookers and the storytellers, you're never quite sure. And that's kind of nice because it keeps you on your toes. You're never really quite sure. You think you might have an inkling of an idea, but how many times have we heard people talk about Taichi-gun or Zaka-gun because they're picking up on the clues, and it's never really panned out. Maybe one day it will. Who knows?
Yeah, but if Ibushi leaves Tanahashi, I don't think he's going to join another stable. I think he'll just kind of be on his own.
Maybe Tanahashi needs to go heel.
Hey, that would be interesting. Last question here from Kevin from DC. Can we all remind ourselves that Master Wato is 23 and has plenty of time to get better?
Yeah, I don't think you're talking to the wrong podcast, man.
Yeah, I love me, man. Dude, I'm all in on Master Wato.
We fucking love Wato. Dude,
in the Largo Loop group chat, it's Wato love all day.
No, it's okay. So here's the funny thing. So like, for some reason, we have a group chat that all the people in our group chat, like except for a couple people, for some reason love QT Marshall. And I think it's because he does like flips, and it's kind of like ironic that he's like kind of good, but also doesn't look marketable. Is that basically the gist of it?
What are you talking about? QT is raw.
All right, so that's what I'm talking about. Like, anytime you try to like get a real answer, everyone's like, QT's raw, and they like no sell everything you're saying. That's sort of like what the Wato thing is, except it's more genuine because Wato has a lot of upside. Like you say, he's 23 and he is raw. Like, sure, he doesn't have all the pieces together, but let me tell you something. I watched quite a bit of Wato and CMLL. Anyone that wants to complain about Wato and New Japan, just fuck off and go watch some CMLL and tell me you'd rather watch him in that you'd rather watch those matches than these ones. Now, that's not a false dichotomy. That's a real dichotomy because we could have either had him here or had him there. And he's much better here than he was there. Trust me.
Yeah, I've been loving Wato. I think he's been looking great in the multi-mans. Love all the knees, the kicks, the flips. I'm loving it.
Bro, he's raw. He's raw, bro.
He is.
Next match, Okada and Sho defeated the Bullet Club team of Gedo and Yujiro. Thank God. After that, we had the Bullet Club team of Evil and Taiji Ishimori with Dick Togo defeat the LIJ team of Bushi and Tetsuya Naito via Scorpion Deathlock.
Wow, a 9-minute Evil match. Can we get more of those?
I didn't like this one either.
I didn't, but at least it was short. But that brings us to the big main event of the evening. We've had weeks and weeks in build since the New Japan Cup in Japan. Minoru Suzuki versus Yuji Nagata.
Yeah, man. This was a match that was built on pride, hatred, disgust, embarrassment, revenge, vengeance, blood-filled. I mean, it was awesome. The story here, Yuji Nagata and Minoru Suzuki have a long-standing rivalry going back years and years and years, contemporaries of similar generation. And most recently, they faced off against each other in the first round of the New Japan Cup. had just an absolute barn burner of a match where Minoru Suzuki where Yuji Nagata was able to pick up a somewhat unexpected surprise victory over Minoru Suzuki. And ever since then, Suzuki has sort of had revenge on his mind. They've been going, every time they're in a multi-man match together, they're just jaw-jacking, going face-to-face, throwing elbows, throwing kicks. And, it all led to another singles match between these two individuals. And this did not disappoint. One of my favorite matches of the month, one of my favorite matches of the year, man.
Yeah, this was just awesome. These two legends just beating the crap out of each other. 20 minutes of strikes, chops, slaps, forearms. It was a brutal war. Headbutts. There was a spot where Suzuki, gave Nagata a shoot headbutt that echoed throughout Cork and Hall, and that that was just sickening sound to hear. But yeah, and also, the whole big thing here, in the first matchup in New Japan Cup this year, the whole story was, like you mentioned, Nagata caught Suzuki off guard with the backdrop hold, and so, towards the end of the match, Nagata was trying to get that backdrop hold, and Suzuki refuses to get that backdrop hold, take that hold again. So he's wrenching in that headlock and fighting, and not making sure Nagata can hit that backdrop suplex. It was awesome.
Yeah, when the whole time I was watching it, I kept telling myself, because I loved the first match, they had so much, and that one had a very simple, basic, easy to follow story, and it was extremely violent and extremely vicious. And while I was watching this match, I was like, this is great, but I don't like it as much as the first match. It kept going and kept building and kept growing, and this was a little more convoluted of a story. It wasn't quite as easy to follow. It was definitely a different kind of match, but as it kept going, that whole thing about me liking the first match more kept diminishing and diminishing and diminishing. And then towards the final stanza of the match, I just was like, dude, I don't know which match I like better, because this is the same level. It is so good. This was very, 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 very violent. I mean, I was just like on the edge of my seat, jumping up and down. Like, when you get visceral reactions from me, that's when like you're doing something well. And we talk about Rich Latta Pro Wrestling. This is Josh Smith Pro Wrestling. Like, this is Young Boy approved. This was just so incredible. And I loved the ending when Suzuki had him in the gotch position and he's just slowly wrenching back. I was like, this motherfucker has it. And it took forever for him to actually get to the position, but they do that a lot in his matches where he'll start to put someone in a gotch, he'll get them to a halfway point or 3/4 of the way, and then they'll get out. But in this case, he just kept slowly going back, and they kept making you think maybe Nagata's going to get out.
Nah.
And then even when he dropped the gotch, it wasn't even in the full-on, full position. It was sort of a little tilted, and then he dropped him anyways. And I was like, that's it. He put him away. I don't know if there were any pinfall attempts aside from that final pinfall attempt.
I don't think there were. Literally for 20 minutes of the match, they were just on their feet, chopping and striking each other. At one point, Suzuki did attack Nagata's leg on the outside. He had wrapped against the guardrail and attacked it with a chair, and then was working some knee bars and leg locks. But yeah, for the most part, there wasn't many pinfall attempts, just them slugging and, Nagata hitting some suplexes, trying to hit the backdrop suplex, and yeah, eventually Nagata hitting the gotch pile driver, or Suzuki hitting the gotch pile driver.
Great. We had some questions here. Grunty Dodd asks, has there ever been a match between two 50-plus-year-old wrestlers that's been better than Suzuki versus Nagata?
I mean, I can't think of one.
I don't know anything specifically. I know there was an exhibition match between Billy Robinson and oh God, what's his name? Who's the great champion from AWA? Nick Bockwinkel. There's a Billy Robinson Nick Bockwinkel match from UWFI in 1990 or something like that, or 91. They're both old, and I love that match. Obviously, there's the fantastic match from last year between Suzuki and Liger. A different kind of match might still be better than these. Hard to say, but it's on the short list.
Yeah. Next question from Kevin Crawford. Given the circumstances of the weird year it's been, is Suzuki versus Nagata a strong contender for feud of the year, not only in NJPW, but of any promotion, period?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely on the list for me. And we'll be talking a little bit about feuds of the year in a second here.
We would speak more to it, Kevin, but you hit it right on the nail. Like, there's nothing more to add to that. You put it perfectly.
Next question from Dun Diesel 86. The highlight of the summer for me has been watching Suzuki and Nagata beat the shit out of each other. They remind me of two stubborn old Rams butting heads for dominance over the herd. Do you guys think that there are any other two dads on the roster who could pull off a feud like this?
Yeah, Kojima.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have to be Kojima against one of these two guys.
Yeah, I mean, Kojima doesn't get credit in the modern times, but I mean, you go watch his work in All Japan from the early 2000s. He's a all-timer.
Yeah.
He's an all-time candidate, literally.
And, speaking of Underground, MLW has been uploading the MLW Underground series where Kojima was the MLW champion. That's the first place I saw Kojima. So, yeah, I think Kojima's awesome. I think they could utilize him more, especially in this limited roster situation. I think he could be in never title matches. I think he could be feuding with guys like Suzuki and Nagata.
Dude, I saw a match with him and Mizawa from 04 the other day. Like, Kojima's the best. he's so awesome.
Red Club for life.
Next question from Dan Koff, and he said, who is Suzuki coming after next? I think we are hoping it's Shingo. I think it might be Okada.
Yeah, it could be Shingo, or it could be the KOPW title. We know he loves his death match, his hardcore style brawling matches. So,
well, you also got to remember he's got that fantastic UWFI match with Kazushi Sakuraba from Wrestle Kingdom 9. So not only has he done like chain matches and death, quote unquote death, hardcore matches, but I mean he could go out there and have a shoot style match with anybody and fuck them up.
Yeah. So, last question here from Kevin from DC. Considering the amount of slaps in the match, did Nagata versus Suzuki indeed slap?
Yeah. This match slapped fucking hard.
Yes, slapped real hard. Yeah, this match, loved it. Definitely a highlight of this Summer Struggle tour.
All right, so let's move on. I usually like for us to do this at the beginning or the end of the show. It's fine. We're in the middle of the show, so no big deal. It's time for us to announce the 2020 July New Japan Wrestler of the Month and Match of the Month.
Yes, so for the Wrestler of the Month for July 2020, we went with the ticking time bomb, Hiromu Takahashi. Just had a great closing stretch in the New Japan Cup. Getting a lot of big wins over heavyweights. Getting pushed in this big situation, and recently having the big spotlight, getting a double title match against Evil, and having great matches, great character work, great promos, being elevated up the card. It's just a great month for Hiromu.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of candidates. I think at this point in time, it was very close between him and Shingo, but you look at some of the great matches Shingo had during the month. I think like the show Shingo match trended very high, but ultimately, I mean, you got Hiromu and Ishii, you got Hiromu and Okada, you got Hiromu and Evil. He defeated he defeated, Ishii, which is a big heavyweight. It had great showings against, two championship level caliber guys in the month, some of the best matches of the month. So it's really hard to kind of deny Hiromu Takahashi as our Wrestler of the Month. Other candidates, Golden Aces, Dangerous Techers possibly could have definitely been up there. Obviously Shingo. Kayfabe wise, you can't really discount Evil, but it's the in-ring report really keeps him away from this. And month wins the New Japan Cup and wins the IWGP title, they probably would have won this easily.
Yeah. So then
that's how bad the in-ring was.
So that takes us to the match of the month, and a lot of great contenders here for the match of the month. But we went with Hiromu Takahashi versus Tomohiro Ishii from the New Japan Cup. Like we mentioned, a big spot here for Hiromu. It was just one of those matches where you just didn't know if New Japan was going to go all the way with Hiromu, have him beat Ishii, or just have the heavyweight beat the junior. But Hiromu got that big upset win over Ishii, and this was one of the best matches of the tournament.
Yeah, July's been an interesting month because we ran New Japan Cup matches plus Dominion plus Summer Struggle. And so it kind of seemed like we were trying to make up for lost time. We ran a lot of shows with a lot of matches. And it's kind of easy to forget that even though there have been some down points in the month and a lot of lackluster shows, been some really great matches. I mean, Shingo versus Sho, Golden Lovers versus Dangerous Techers, the Nagata versus Suzuki match that just occurred. Those got to be some of the matches that are like at the tip top of this consideration. But Hiromu versus Ishii, is pretty much unanimously the most loved match, and it's a very special match, just the way that it kind of all played out. I think for me personally, I think I still got a soft spot in my heart for Nagata Suzuki, but I would be lying if I were to deny Hiromu Ishii their rightful due, and that they're definitely the match of the month.
Nice. So now our next segment, this was the Young Boys idea, and it's a great idea. So we're going to do a little quick kind of exercise of looking at the half-year report. And so we're going to take a look at like the categories that we use for our end-of-the-year awards, and we're going to kind of go back and forth. We're each going to have 30 seconds each to kind of shoot on this topic, on each topic here, and kind of give our thoughts on the half of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, real simple concept. So we're going to take 30 seconds each. We're going to have a topic, and we are going to give our unfiltered, unfettered, thoughts on the topic. And once our 30 seconds are up, boom, that's it. You can't talk about it any longer. So this is gonna be a quick snapshot of the half year, where we stand in 2020 with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
And we'll kind of go in it. We'll be doing a snake kind of format. So Young Boy's going to start off. The first category we'll talk about is match of the year. So he'll start off. If we have 30 seconds, I'll do my 30 seconds, and then I'll start off with the second category, and we'll work our way until we get to our last topic. All right, so.
All right, man. Well, let me know when you're ready to go.
All right, so going to start the clock now.
Awesome. So match of the month, there's been plenty of really great matches this year. Everything starts and ends with Okada versus Ibushi in the Dome. That has to be the leading candidate for me. Aside from that, other leading examples have got to be Ospreay versus Hiromu, Ospreay versus ESJ, some of the post-COVID stuff that we've mentioned, like Ishii and Hiromu. Lots of great candidates out there.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with you, man. Okada versus Ibushi at the Tokyo Dome was definitely, for me right now, is my match of the year. That was just an epic matchup between those guys. But like you mentioned, Okada versus Naito is a great candidate as well. And all the Ospreay Sabre matches also. But for me right now, it's definitely going to be Okada and Ibushi. That was just an epic match. Moving on to best show of the year. So best show of the year, I'm thinking for me, it's going to have to be night one of Wrestle Kingdom. Like we mentioned, we had the epic Okada-Ibushi match. You had the Moxley-Archer match. There was just so much about that first night of Wrestle Kingdom. The Liger multi-man match. That first night, the second night was good too, but I just felt like the first night was special. And then also we've had COVID, so not a lot of really great shows have happened post-pandemic. But yeah, Wrestle Kingdom night one.
Awesome. So getting into best show, we have this is kind of a unique situation, obviously, with COVID. This time of the year, we would have had a myriad of really great shows. But when you look at the overall year, it starts and begins with Wrestle Kingdom, night one and night two. And I don't think anything post that, including New Beginning, even begin to touch the greatness of those two shows. It really just comes down to your personal preference. I prefer night 1 over night 2 just to the general nature of the flow of the shows. Night 2 has some really, really big moments, including the title win for Naito. But I got to go night 1. So Wrestler of the Year, this is going to be a really interesting category because a lot of the big names that you're used to seeing, like Tetsuya Naito and Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, some of those bigger names, they are not going to be really in strong consideration at this point in the year. I think right now we're at a two-way tie with Hiromu Takahashi and Shingo Takagi sort of leading the way, with the outlier of Tomohiro Ishii kind of in the wings like he always is, and that's kind of where we're at this point.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Wrestler of the Year, I mean, it's kind of hard to discredit somebody like a Kazuchika Okada or Tetsuya Naito. I mean, they've had some really high highs this year. Obviously, both of them in some 5-star matches. But when you think about consistency, like you mentioned, I think Hiromu Takahashi is one of those guys. I think Shingo Takagi is one of those guys with all his never title offenses in some of the matches he's had this year. And I really feel like he just needs one really, really great match, and he can take Wrestler of the Year. So now moving on to Jushin Thunder Liger Jr. of the Year. I think it's Hiromu Takahashi. This guy, he's been the junior champion, came back at that big match with Will Ospreay at the Tokyo Dome, and then his elevation in the New Japan Cup has been great, and just really been the flag bearer for the juniors right now. And I don't think there's anybody else that comes to mind for me. I mean, you could say Ospreay but the lack of competition, I think it's going to go to Hiromu Takahashi.
Awesome. So with there not being a Best of Super Juniors so far this year, and most likely not going to have one this calendar year, it kind of leaves the junior division in a state of flux. That being the status of things, we have a junior tag team title division that is sort of on hold. So I think you're right. It starts and begins with Hiromu Takahashi. I mean, he was in the retirement match with Jushin Thunder Liger. He's defended the title multiple times, great matches against Ryu Lee and others. And I think that he is the only candidate that really stands out.
Yeah, so moving on to Tag Team of the Year. This is an interesting one. We know how New Japan goes with tag teams. Honestly, I think it's down to Dangerous Tekkers and potentially Golden Aces. I think for right now, maybe I'm just going to go with Dangerous Tekkers since they're the current champions, and I feel like they're probably going to hold on to the tag titles probably for a good part of this year.
Yeah, for Tag Team of the Year, I've got to go Golden Aces. They have had just a longer period of success, although it might not be that much longer. I mean, they had matches with GOD. It all kind of started at the New Year's Dash. So, I mean, we're talking from New Year's Dash to this point. They've kind of been teaming and also, in the title picture. So, I mean, that's my leading candidate with Dangerous Tekkers kind of right behind them. If GOD does return or FinJuice, then they might have a chance to kind of be outside contenders. After that, we've got the Carl Gotch Strong Style Award. And this is a really, really tough one. Right now, I think Nagata and Suzuki are kind of making resurgences and making strong candidacies as potential leaders there. You always have Tomohiro Ishii, who's had his own wars. Someone that a lot of people probably don't expect an outside potential candidate is Hiromu Takahashi. And that's everybody off the top of my head.
So for me, I definitely agree with you. Suzuki and Nagata are definitely up there. I think those guys are probably the two leading candidates, and I don't think you can leave out Shingo Takagi with all his never title matches, and his matches with Ishii and Goto in the beginning of the year, and then even some of his matches, since we've come back from the pandemic, the matches with Sho have definitely been, strong style and that never style. So I think Shingo's up there, but yeah, I think Suzuki and Nagata would definitely be the top candidates. So moving on to Feud of the Year. Feud of the Year, we talked about it before. I think Suzuki and Nagata has to be one of the top candidates for Feud of the Year. I mean, simple build, these guys attacking each other post-match and just building to this big singles match, the New Japan Cup stuff. That's been a great rivalry. And then I know we're not big fans of, Evil in the term, but it's a big thing. So I think you also have to consider Evil and Naito as potentially a Feud of the Year.
because of the strange nature of how everything has turned out with COVID in this year. I agree with you, Jeremy. All the different feuds that you just mentioned are great candidates. I probably think Suzuki Nagata is leading for me. Some other options: Carl Fredericks versus Jeff Cobb is another possible candidate. Also, Ryo Lee versus Hiromu Takahashi was another great feud that happened earlier in the year. And you could even possibly consider Will Ospreay versus ZSJ. But we haven't just seen enough this year to have other options. So we have the Big Van Vader Gaijin of the Year award. And, man, this is a really tough one because the Gaijin have kind of been on the outside of the company since COVID has started. I mean, I guess my leading candidate has to be still Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay winning the Rev Pro title this year, having great matches with Hiromu as well as ZSJ. I mean, aside from him, I don't know who you really go with. Can you think of any other options?
I think Jon Moxley is a name you got to throw out there. He is the U.S. champion. He did have 2 big matches at Wrestle Kingdom. He did have the Suzuki match. I believe that was New Beginning. He teamed with Okada in that one match as well. I know he hasn't been around due to the pandemic, but I think he's definitely a name you consider. But Ospreay, like you mentioned. Also, I think Zack Sabre Jr. is a name you mentioned, especially with the whole Dangerous Ticker thing. I think he could be somebody that has a great remainder of the year since he is in Japan. So, faction of the year. This one is an interesting one. Obviously, we don't really have many new factions. It's kind of the same bunch that we've talked about the last 3 years. But this year, I think Bullet Club might end up winning faction of the year just because a lot of people are really into the evil story and the evil turn, and I feel like that's given Bullet Club kind of a shot in the arm. I think LIJ is another great candidate with them holding a majority of the goal in the first half of the the first few months of the year before the pandemic. So that's definitely another stable to consider.
Yeah, with the stable of the year, it's a 2-dog race at this point, and it's not even that far away to where anybody couldn't pull away and still to potentially win this by the end of the year. The 2 biggest points, LIJ had almost all the gold for the majority of the year until the turn from Evil. Now that Evil's turn, it seemed like Bullet Club is surging, and they've got a lot of fresh names, fresh faces, some new momentum. So there's a good chance that they could actually win Faction of the Year this year. After that, we have the Most Improved Award, and this is one that I really am not 100% confident on. I wish I would have thought some of these answers out before we started this exercise. Desperado probably jumps out to me as maybe being the first and most improved person. Carl Fredericks is another name that jumps out. I know he's a newcomer, only coming at the end of the year, but the types of improvements he's made has been so vast. Other than those 2, I'm not really quite sure just because of the limited nature of the coverage this year.
Yeah, newcomer of the year, that's most improved. Yeah, that's I immediately kind of think of the young lions. I'm thinking about Gabriel Kidd, I'm thinking about Yota Tsuji, and I'm thinking about Yuya Yamura. I feel like all 3 of those guys have really stepped up this year, and I think all 3 of them are candidates. I think especially Gabriel Kidd in this last tour. I've really been just impressed with his fire and what he's been bringing to the table. So yeah, I think we can't count on the young lions when we're thinking about most improved here. So next up, we have newcomer of the year, and for me, I think we joke about him, but I think Master Wato is definitely a name you got to consider. Weeks and weeks of build up to this kind of big debut, and I know he's kind of at the low part of the card with feuds and stories, but he's been having some good matches and very entertaining, and I love his moveset. And so, as of right now, yeah, Wato is the first name that comes to my mind.
So join in on my 30 seconds here, Jeremy. Is there anybody else that has joined New Japan proper during this time period?
I don't think so. I'm trying to. So I think either Master Watts or Gabriel Kidd have got to be your top 2 leaders. If we're talking about New Japan of America, though, 2 names that come out to me: Russ Taylor as well as Filthy Tom Lawler for sure. After that, we have the Fighting Spirit Award. So this is an award that we give for people who have accomplished, great tasks.
Man, a Fighting Spirit Award. I actually can't even think of like a good candidate. I do think of Hiromu Takahashi's run through the New Japan Cup as a junior champion and defeating many heavyweights. But and maybe like Naito like overcoming in the Dome, but I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, I had a hard time thinking about this one too, but Hiromu was the first thing I thought about. Hiromu's run through the New Japan Cup, being a junior and surviving so many heavyweights, and just even that leading to that double title match, even though it was kind of outside the New Japan Cup. The other thing I think about is just like the company in general having fighting spirit and during the pandemic and doing the best it could to put content out through that period, and all the things they did with clean the ring, all that stuff.
Liger's retirement.
Oh yeah. So next up we have
the Young Boy of the Year.
Yeah, so Young Boy of the Year. So I mentioned some of the young lions that I've been impressed with, but I think Carl Fredericks has to be one of the leading candidates for this. Being a guy obviously pushed very heavily, and there was already plans for him to graduate earlier in the year in New Japan Cup. We didn't see until the Lions break Collision, but he's been very impressive this year. And then also Connors, Coughlin. There's a lot of great young lions here in New Japan that could qualify for this award.
Yeah, Carl Fredericks, I have to look at the voting regiments, but it seems like he might have actually he might not even qualify for this by the time the year end comes. And if that is the case, guys like him and Shota Umino kind of moving on, as well as Ren Narita, I think Yuya Uemura is the leading candidate, even above Coughlin, Connors, as well as Gabriel Kidd and Yota Tsuji. Yuya Uemura is my Young Boy of the Year at this halfway point in 2020, but it's anybody's race. All right, so after that, we have the Strong Style Fight of the Year, and there are quite a few candidates. Off the top of my head, Jon Moxley's death match with Lance Archer comes to mind, as well as Hiromu Takahashi's Slapfest with Ryu Lee in February. But the top two most hard-hitting, violent matches that I can think of are the Nagata Suzuki match. Whichever one you like better, take your pick. Although, even though those two might lead, they might actually split the vote and possibly lead to one of them not winning.
Yeah, we've seen situations like that happen in the past where something similar splits the vote. But yeah, Suzuki and Nagata, those two matches are definitely high up for me as candidates for Strong Style Fight of the Year. Also, I think you got to consider both the Show and Shingo matches. Maybe the first one, I think people like that one a little bit better, and it was probably a little bit more hard hitting than the rematch. So that's definitely a candidate to consider as well. And also, yeah, you mentioned Mox Archer, but yeah, for me, it's definitely going to be one of those Suzuki Nagata matches. Then Junior Match of the Year. This is a great category. We've had, New Japan usually has a ton of great junior matches, and I think back to the beginning of the year where we had Hiromu Takahashi making his kind of big return, his first big singles match, taking on Will Ospreay for the junior title. That match was just freaking incredible. That will probably be one of the leadings for me. You also got, like you mentioned, in the Strong Style Fight, Hiromu and Ryu Lee as a matchup there. So I'm trying to think. Those are probably the top two that come to my mind when I'm thinking Junior Match of the Year.
Yeah, I wish we had a deeper conversation of options here. Hopefully things open up as the year continues on. But right now it's a two-dog race between Hiromu versus Ospreay and Hiromu versus Ryu Lee. And I'm leaning heavily towards Ospreay versus Hiromu at the Dome.
Oh, man. You finished with 10 seconds to spare. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not much to discuss there.
All right, thanks for the next one.
So the next one we have is Excursion Match of the Year. And one of the nice things here is I've actually gone ahead and kept up with all the different excursion matches that have taken place. And I mean, there are quite a few different options. Mox versus Darby Allin, Cavernario versus Eagles, Red versus Pac, Lee versus Omega, Chaos versus Rascals, Lee versus Taylor, Liger and Eagles versus... I mean, I could go on and on. I think right now my leading candidate, though, is Ospreay versus Sabre from Rev Pro High Stakes. I think that's got to be the leading candidate for Excursion Match of the Year.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, man. Yeah, that Ospreay versus Sabre match for the Rev Pro title was definitely a big deal. The story they were telling with Will Ospreay and, never holding that title and just the rivalry that he's had with Zack Sabre and what a big moment that was for him winning the title. Trying to think of any other excursion match. You mentioned the Kenny Omega.
Ospreay James.
Oh, yeah, Dowie James. Also, Moxley versus Brody Lee from Double or Nothing with John Moxley representing New Japan there. I thought that was a great matchup as well. Then Angle of the Year. So there haven't been a ton of Angle this year, but obviously there have been obviously some memorable ones. I'm not a fan of Evil as IWGP champion, but I did like the initial angle of just him turning on Naito and the whole visual of him turning the fist into the Too Sweet, and just the whole fact that he was leaving LIJ, but I didn't realize that was leading to him winning the titles, but I thought that whole angle came off very well.
Yeah, I think the two angles that come to mind is probably Kenta attacking Naito at the end of Wrestle Kingdom, and then Evil turning on LIJ and turning on Naito as well. It seems like Naito's always getting his ass whipped in these sorts of things. If there are other options, I'd have to do some deep digging, but I think right now Evil Naito's leading probably as the most significant moment as an actual angle for the year. The next one is news story of the year. So I've got to imagine probably COVID-19 and New Japan not running while other companies run is probably one of the most telling and most significant stories of the year. Some other options would be like Liger's retirement and things of that nature, but the most gripping thing that's happened is them just not running while everybody else is running. It's got to be it.
Yeah, I agree with you totally there. I mean, when I think about news story, there is no bigger news story than a global pandemic and the fact that the promotion has been shut down for 3 or 4 months, however long it was. And so, yeah, the fact, as you mentioned, other companies around the world, or even companies in Japan, were continuing to run while New Japan stopped, and just the way they've been handling everything during the pandemic just really speaks to just their care for the wrestlers and the fans. So I think that's definitely going to be it. Then moving on to the title picture scene in general. So it's not an award, but we're just talking about how we feel about the title scenes. And overall, it's just been very interesting with the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I never thought I would see Evil as the double champion. It's just kind of interesting to see where are they going with the IWGP double title picture. I really enjoyed the Never title picture. I'm digging Shingo defending against Juniors, and I'd love to see him against Minoru Suzuki.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here is we have titles wrapped up by having overseas champions. We have other titles that are kind of tied up just from the fact that champions are injured or there's a lack of division. You kind of look at the tag team title picture scene. I think the lack of divisions is something that's kind of hurting certain titles. And then you look at other divisions like the Never title scene, the IWGP, and those rosters are extremely deep. So it's very interesting in those respects. Finally, the company overall, I think, the company had certain goals and probably booking aspirations for the long term. This global pandemic knocked things on its keister, and once they did come back, for better or for worse, running in an empty arena environment or in what I like to call the no cheering environment has been very precarious. I'm not a big fan of some of the major decisions that they made in the past few weeks or the past few months, but overall, this company has done a lot of really good things for the way that they run as far as the health of the wrestlers.
Yeah, so it's definitely been an interesting year for New Japan. Obviously, nobody predicted the global pandemic that would, cut the company short, and I definitely think the pandemic set them off track a little bit. And like you, I agree, I'm not a big fan on some of the booking decisions that have been made since they've returned, but I think they've been doing a great job as far as what they did with the empty arena. New Japan Cup came off well for the most part before we got to the finals, and they're trying their best right now during this time. All right. Well.
Man. That game is hard.
Yeah, man. Wow, man.
And it was my idea, but I didn't know it was going to be so hard. And like I'm sitting there like thinking of so many like, you know, like when I talked about like strong style wrestler of the year, I forgot to mention Shingo, and like then you bring it up, and I'm like, thank God Jeremy brought that up. We're gonna look like idiots.
It's just so hard to think, you know, right off the cuff when the clock is ticking and you're seeing the time go down on what to think about. But yeah, I think we kind of did a good job just kind of encapsulating our thoughts and kind of what we see that's happening in the first half of the year.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We tried our best, and you guys know how it is. At the end of the year, we're going to give you the most thorough breakdown year-end report, so you know you don't have to worry about that at all.
Yep, and we'll definitely, you know, throw the voting out around that time for you guys to vote in this will be our 4th annual year-end awards.
Yeah, I think the most interesting aspect of this little exercise that we just did is, and it's probably no surprise at all, is just how many months were we off? 3, 4?
Yeah.
3? It really limited how much certain aspects of the company have been exposed. You know, things like the junior division, things like the tag team division. And, you know, you really start to see those sorts of things come to light when we start talking about the different categories that are usually, you know, overrun with candidates. And then you're like, what's the junior match of the year? Oh, there's only been like 2 standouts. It's like you kind of forget that sort of thing. You know, the company's kind of trying to like, you know, keep its head above water, just running the way it is. And I think that little exercise we just did kind of brought to light some of those things for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, we have some quick news items here, and then we have some questions, and then recommended match of the week. So first thing we got to mention, Mark Rollerball Rocco passing away on July 30th at the age of 69. Josh, I know you are a big fan of Rollerball and probably have more insight on his background than I do.
Yeah, Rollerball Rocco, Mark Rocco is just one of the best innovators in the history of professional wrestling. I listened to the latest episode of Wrestling Observer Radio, and I thought Dave Meltzer did a really great job kind of encapsulating sort of the perception of Mark Rocco and his time as well as sort of his legacy. I don't know that I could do any better, but I mean, you know, the fact that he did have a long-standing relationship with New Japan. He was one of the guys that when they would send workers over to the UK to, you know, learn how to work and have somebody to kind of be mentored by, he was one of those guys. I mean, he helped mentor Jushin Thunder Liger. He worked with Satoru Sayama extensively over there, and he was probably the best worker of his generation in the 80s and the late 70s in the World of Sport era. And I mean, we're talking about an era that includes guys like Dynamite Kid, Marty Jones, you know, various others. And he was one of the most influential and groundbreaking. I mean, when people talk about like the Young Bucks or a lot of indie guys like Ricochet, I mean, that's kind of how Mark Rocco was sort of seen in his time period. He was a trendsetter, and he was brought over to New Japan to portray the first version of Black Tiger, you know, same character that'd be played by, you know, other greats like Rocky Romero and Tomohiro Ishii, Eddie Guerrero. And he was the original, and he stayed with the company all through the 80s into the early 90s. And he really left an indelible footprint on the company, on their working style, on the style of so many others. And I mean, the only reason most wrestling fans in the States have never heard of him is he just never came to the States. But I mean, if you go into the World of Sport catalog or you watch New Japan World, you can see a lot of his influence and his work, and it still stands up to this time. And yeah, Rollerball is the greatest. One of them.
Yeah, definitely plan on looking back and watching some more of his matches. I know you showed me a couple of his matches before, and yeah, like you mentioned, yeah, just kind of timeless performer. So thoughts and prayers to his family.
You guys see his stuff with Marty Jones, his stuff with Dynamite Kid, his stuff with Fit Finley. Like, my God, yeah, like Rollerball's the best, man.
Yeah. So our thoughts and prayers with his family and his loved ones that were missing his presence and all the performers that he's worked with over the years. In other news, Carl Fredericks, like you mentioned earlier, was on the NJPW podcast. Check that out. Some kind of story building elements there for the New Japan Cup USA. We had Master Wato's first interview up on NJPW1972.com, Way to the Grandmaster. So check out Master Wato's first interview on the site. Then we got a few questions here. So first,
nice. Let's knock them down.
First from our user Highest Fly Flow says, "Congrats, Jeremy and Josh. You've been picked by Kadani himself to advise one rule or make a suggestion to the IWGP committee. What do you advise? Also, don't worry. You get paid a medium-sized birthday cake slice and a firm handshake. You must pay for your own flights."
So we have to advise Kadani and the IWGP committee on one rule, like something we could change in New Japan.
Yeah, one rule or suggestion.
I think my biggest thing would be to, and I'm going to kind of cheat here because I don't want to focus in on one thing, but I would tell them to revise how they handle their referees. I think that the referees need to have more authority and need to be more forceful in enforcing the rules of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah,
be more consistent.
That's a great. Yeah, I hate the way that the referees come off and just figuring out what's a DQ, what's not a DQ, like just giving them a little bit more authority and not being pushovers.
And it'd be one thing if like their house style of how they do tag matches was like if they only had like one or two tag matches on a show, so you kind of don't notice or you kind of forget. But when it's like 5 or 6 and you see the same tropes over and over and over again, it kind of becomes glaring issues. You're like, oh my god, like is this a tornado tag now? Like,
right?
You can't count anybody out? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, my one suggestion to them would be to take the belts off of Evil.
You're stupid.
But like, look, man, look at your main events in the past. Like, watch this match and watch every other IWGP title match and tell me that something ain't right,
bro. Just be like this. Be like, y'all want to draw or nah? And that's it.
Yeah.
Because we can put the title on like there's mad people. I mean, there's like 10 dudes that will draw better. I'm telling you.
Next question from our user Viking Pain. He says, Japan is starting to roll back some restrictions on re-entry, but it seems like COVID cases in the country are starting to rise. What would New Japan do if Japan shut down everything again? Focus solely on their U.S. branch?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like based on their previous actions and their attitude toward and their commitment to the wrestlers that if everything shut down again, they'd probably shut down again. I mean, I don't know that to be a fact, but that's a possibility. But I don't think it's going to affect what they're doing in New Japan of USA. Like, those are two different entities. Even though they're under the same umbrella, I mean, they're kind of both beholden to whatever's happening in the country that they're running in.
Yeah, I think if if cases continue to spike, I think we'll see immediately a shift back to empty arena for a little bit, and then if a full shutdown, just based on how they reacted the first time, I think they would go empty arena and then do a full shutdown of the promotion again.
What is the title called? So the red belt is the IWGP United States Heavyweight title.
Yeah.
I think they need to change that. They need to get rid of that belt, start a new lineage, and call it the IWGP Heavyweight title of America.
Mm.
They got New Japan Pro Wrestling of America. They need to have an IWGP Heavyweight title of America. Champion of the Americas.
Next question from Agent Wallaby. We know that the New Money Clip and Butterfly Lock are pretty atrocious submission finisher, but who in New Japan has the best that isn't ZSJ? Because that ain't fair. His vote goes to Suzuki's knee bar.
I mean, so did he say submission hold or finisher?
He just said, well, he was talking about finishers, but he just says who has the best. Because Suzuki's knee bar is not a finisher.
No, I mean, if anything, the closest thing he has to a finisher is probably, not that he doesn't finish people with knee bars, but it's probably his sleeper.
Yeah. So I think it just means cool submission in general then.
Well, that's an interesting question. I do, as much flack as I give Evil, I do like his Scorpion Deathlock, but I mean, I'm a Ricky Choshu mark, so I'm always going to like that.
Yeah. I like, what's his name? Blanking right now. Oh, Desperado. His stretch muffler when he locks it in all the way.
Yeah. Obviously, there's the classic Anaconda Vice from Tenzan, which is always going to be up there.
Yeah.
Nagata Lock.
Yep. All three of them.
All of them. Who else has good submission holds? I don't think there are a lot of people that really do, honestly.
Right. I think submission, then I immediately think Saber. I'm trying to think. Taiji Ishimori is using the yes lock. I like that submission.
Yeah, and I think he's going to win the title, by the way. But possibly anyways. Yeah, I think we named some good ones. I don't really know what my favorite one is. Like, it's kind of bullcrap that he said we can't use Zach, but it's like, it's not cheating if it's the best. That's like being like, who's the best player in the NBA of all time? But you can't say Michael Jordan. That's cheating.
Yeah, I mean, Zach has so many amazing submission holds.
I don't even know all the names of them, but I mean, the one that I like is the banana split variation that he does.
Yeah, I think that one's probably my favorite as well.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let's move on. Great question.
So next from...
Oh, I mean, you really like the Texas Cloverleaf, though, don't you?
Oh, yeah, Tanahashi's Cloverleaf, yeah.
Fuck it, I'm gonna say I like the Walls of Jericho.
I like the Boston Crab from the Young Lions.
You know what? That is like one of my favorites. I like the one that Oka and Tsuji do, where they jump up and down, though.
Yeah, I like the single leg Carl Fredericks.
Fuck Carl Fredericks.
Next question from EMJ Does PR. He says, the year is 2023. Who are New Japan's big four?
Tangaloa. I don't know, man. Who are the big three in 2023? Tanahashi's got to be gone by in 3 years, right?
Yeah, I think it would be Okada. I think Okada will still be around. Ospreay.
Okada, Jay White, Ospreay are all three locks, right?
Yeah. Bushi?
Hiromu? Bushi? I don't know. Ibushi's kind of old. I don't know, man.
That's right. Yeah, he's like, what, 38 or something like that? Yeah, it could be Hiromu.
We'll just give you that answer, I guess.
Yeah.
Although it seems weird to have two Gaijin in the top. I'll tell you this: I feel more confident about Jay White being in the top four than I do about
Ospreay.
Your boy about Ospreay.
Mm.
I know that isn't a popular pick or what people like to hear, but he ain't wrestling that dojo.
the funky little dojo, as our friend Rithlada would say.
He didn't wrestle in the funky little dojo. Carl Fredericks has a better shot at being one of the top four than fucking Will Ospreay does. Will Ospreay is going to be wrestling WWE by that point.
Or AEW. Jericho says he wants that, man.
Yeah. Anyways, next question.
From @RainTrigger15. It's with Dick Togo joining NJPW and lack of depth in roster due to the situation. Who would you like NJPW to sign from Japanese indies or smaller promotions?
Dude, the funny thing is we really don't follow like the smaller promotions or the Japanese indies because this is almost like a full-time job following this. But I mean, I don't know. Like Daisuke Sakamoto is always my answer.
Yeah. I have to go Daisuke, man. Seeing him live in New Orleans was incredible. And yeah, the fact that I feel like is he a freelancer or is he...
Kinda, but I mean, he mostly wrestles in Big Japan. He was doing stuff with All Japan, but I don't really know the state of everything, you know?
Right.
wasn't like Ashino the guy that went to All Japan and then they immediately pushed down the card?
Yeah.
And everyone was excited about him. So it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know who's really out there. I mean, it seems like everyone's pretty tied up in either All Japan, DDT, Noah, Cyber Fight, Dragon Gate. I mean, everyone's tied up. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know the scene like that, so I'll have to do some research and see if there's any names that really come to mind there.
I want them to sign Masakatsu Funaki.
Who's that?
He's like one of the founders of Pancrase with Suzuki. He wrestles for Sayama as like an old guy sometimes.
Gotcha. You need to find Kitamura. Sign him.
Yeah, dude. I heard a rumor that he like was let go due to. Did I say this last week about the Yakuza stuff?
It was either last week or like 2 weeks ago.
Man, we never heard that before, but that I don't know. That's just crazy. Anyways,
speaking of missing people, where the heck is Ren Narita? He wasn't on Lions Break Collision. He hasn't been seen in Japan.
I assume he's in California, learning plying his trade.
You need to get that man on the show. He better be on strong.
I think that there's some sort of reason that we're not seeing him. Honestly, like I didn't want to. I was wondering about that. Like, I feel like maybe they're ready to like do something surprising with him, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Guess we'll see. Next set of questions here from Maple Leaf Wrestling History Podcast. First question says, who was one of the first gaijin babyfaces for New Japan? I always assumed foreigners were heels until some point in the 90s, but could you guess who one of the first were?
One of the first babyface gaijin?
Yeah.
Holy crap. I don't know. Maybe Hulk Hogan.
When he came for the IWGP title.
Bob Backlund. Bob Backlund was a babyface, and he was the WWF champion in the 70s. Dusty Rhodes was a heel. Killer Call Krupp was a heel. Andre was a heel. Murdoch was a heel. I think Bob Backlund's probably like your best answer. I mean, you could. I mean, when we're talking foreigners, though, I mean, it depends. If you start talking about the luchadors, you got guys like Dos Caras, Mil Mascaras. They were baby faces, kind of, but they kind of weren't all at the same time. That's an interesting question. If you're talking about like from America, I would say like the easiest answer I can think of is Bob Backlund. But when you include the luchadors, if you're talking about like Mexican wrestlers, I don't know a clear answer. Yeah, that's a tough one.
His follow-up question, he says that Josh has mentioned many times that a freelancer like Suzuki will never become IWGP champion. So my final question is, have there been any freelance champions before, or is the IWGP title similar to the NWA title by having to make some sort of commitment to New Japan beforehand?
Bob Sapp, I believe, was a freelancer in a certain respect, although I think he had exclusivity to New Japan over other wrestling companies at the time. Yoshihiro Takayama was a freelancer when he was champion, but that was a different era. But he's one of the only guys I can think of that realistically was a freelancer when he was champion.
What about Brock? Was he under contract?
No, under contract, exclusive.
Gotcha.
Yoshihiro Takayama is the only guy that comes to mind, aside from Bob Sapp. Those are the only two guys that I can think of that were freelancers, essentially. I mean, Bob Sapp was pretty much just wrestling for New Japan at the time, but eventually he was still fighting, though, and, you know, he was fighting for Pride, he was fighting for K1, so that one's a little open. But Takayama was wrestling for Noah and All Japan around the same time, so, yeah, and he was not exclusive to New Japan.
Interesting, yeah. It's one of those things, like, you don't want to really put your world title on somebody who can just never come back.
Yeah. I mean, they had other guys like Tenryu was probably quote unquote considered a freelancer, maybe, but he kind of also had his own promotion and things like that. Takada was an outsider, but I wouldn't call him a freelancer. So, I mean, that one's hard to say.
Next question here from Rich Lada. He says, is Gato in the middle of a horrible cocaine binge?
This is the second week in a row that Rich has asked us this. And I'll say this, wrestling's weird in 2020. And when you start looking at if you want to make excuses for the evil thing on its own, that's one thing. If you want to make excuses for the King of Pro Wrestling thing on its own, that's one thing. But when you start adding the stuff together and then kind of looking at the totality, I get what Rich is saying.
Maybe Gallus he needed to get creative, so he needed to try some stuff to open his mind up.
Open your third eye.
Last question here from Reddit user Raising Falcons says, Wrestle Kingdom main event, Tanahashi versus Naito. Thoughts? Maybe even have Tanahashi lose the G1 but win the briefcase of the G1.
It's not impossible. That's definitely a possibility. And maybe that could potentially be a last hurrah for Tanahashi in the Dome. But if you're going to do a last hurrah, I don't know if Naito is necessarily the guy. Guys, let me just be honest with you. Heart to heart talk real quick. Naito's on his last leg too, dude. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but he's not long for this world. There's a reason when MJ does PR asked us about the 2023, neither one of us was like in 3 years Naito's gonna be in the Big Four. He's not gonna be in the Big Four in 3 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't really. They could do that as a Dome match, but I would not. I wouldn't. For some reason. Oh man, people are gonna think I'm being hyperbolic when I say this, but I'm not. That's closer to Starrcade 96 than it is WrestleMania, than WrestleMania in 97 or 96. WrestleMania, you had Brett and Shawn. Starrcade, you had Hogan and Piper. I'm not saying they're quite that old, but I'm just saying in ring years they might not be that far off, man. Yeah. Literally. And I like them both, but I wouldn't run with that match. I just wouldn't. I would run with an Naito versus a young guy. I don't know who it is, but they might do they could. The only reason I think they could do Tanahashi is because it probably would draw.
Yeah, and I just feel like, that was that match they've been protecting. We had all those comments from both of them, and it's been subtly teased. And so, like you mentioned, it would draw. They could do it. I think that they could be able to still pull out a great matchup.
They should go with Hiromu. And I'm not even saying that because it's that's what I want. I'm just saying from a logic standpoint, you need to go with someone who is younger. And it doesn't have to be Hiromu. But it needs to not be Tanahashi, personally. And that Tanahashi match might pay off in the short term, but I don't think it has long-term far benefits.
Yeah, and
I just don't.
And with them not doing the Naito Hiromu match at the anniversary show and obviously not doing it at Dominion, maybe they are holding that for the Dome. So we'll see.
I do have a sneaking suspicion that they're holding that match. They were holding that match off. I don't think they were holding it off for the Dome earlier in the year. If there's no COVID, I don't think they do that match. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't. But now, given the roster and given everything, it feels like that might be the way they're going.
All right, so we're going to wrap things up with the recommended match of the week. So last week I made us watch the no rope explosive barbed wire barricade explosive landmine double hell death match with the Great Nita versus the Great Muta from August 28th, 1999 from the NJPW Jingu Climax. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my first recommendation watching this match, and it's a match that I've seen in the past, but I haven't watched it, in quite a while. And I don't find this match to be one that I regularly revisit. But I've always thought that the string of matches that Sushi Onita had in New Japan during that time period were very interesting and historic. And this is chief among them as one of the most interesting. So you have Atsushi Onita, playing the role of the Great Nita, which is sort of his parody / tribute to the Great Muta. And I would recommend, if you're going to watch this match, in fact, it's the only way you should watch this match. They have this match available on New Japan World. My recommendation to you is, if you're able to find a version of it that's not on New Japan World, please watch it that way. Although the video quality might not be quite as good, the entrances are necessary. You have to watch the entrances to this match, because this match is absolutely 100% spectacle, and you miss out on so much by not watching those entrances that are edited out of New Japan World. As far as the match goes, I mean, it's not the first or only exploding landmine, death, hell, barbed wire, time bomb, death match, blah, blah, blah. These matches have always been interesting, though, because Onita basically gets his ass kicked all the time in New Japan. He wrestles guys like Riki Choshu or Chono or Muta, who are not willing to take those bumps. And when they do take the one bump into the barbed wire with the explosion, they always have protective gear on. So Muta comes out with his like giant jacket robe on, and he gets thrust into the into the exploding barbed wire almost immediately, but he has protective gear on. After that, it's all about the illusion of him potentially going into it. They tease it a lot, but he doesn't really get thrown into it. He doesn't take any dangerous bumps or anything. One thing I don't like about the match is the reliance on the scythe. They use a scythe as a weapon, and it's like there's certain weapons I can believe, usually things that are blunt object. Other things that are sharp, I'm not big fans of them, because either they're going to be real, and if they're real, then people are going to be getting bladed, and I'm not a big fan of that, or even, like Abdullah's fork or the scythe, or they're going to be gimmicked and fake, and it's not real, and no one's bleeding, and it breaks your suspension of disbelief. The only benefit here is you've got two monster characters who are otherworldly. And so the scythe, because this isn't even really to be taken seriously, it's more of a spectacle match than an actual catch-as-catch-can product. You kind of give it a little bit of a pass on using the scythe. But I thought that these two guys did a good job of building the anticipation of the spots. And, they're both using the mist, and there's turns of control. But ultimately, this is not what you would call a great in-ring product, like at all. But it is something for historical purposes that I think everyone should absolutely watch. And I did think it was, at the end of the day, entertaining.
Right.
I would still go like less than 3 stars for sure. But it's not in the negative territory or anything like that. And it's just one of those things. It's like you kind of need to see it to kind of experience it. I don't want to put it on the same historical perspective as, say, Hogan and Andre, but how that match is a big spectacle and it drew and it was important. That's kind of what this match was.
Yeah, like you totally agree with you. Yeah, obviously when I watched this, I was not, when I picked this, I wasn't expecting anybody to say it was a 5-star classic, but it was entertaining, and just with Jingu coming out.
Bro, it's not even a 4-star classic.
It's not a classic at all.
It's not even a 3-star classic.
But yeah, it was historical, and it kind of fit with everything going on with us on the road to Jingu.
Awesome. Yeah, and again, I did enjoy the match. If you haven't seen it, I would still say definitely watch it. It's not that long of a match anyways. I thought the end of the match was kind of weird. Like the way that Onita gets thrown into the landmines on the outside. But, I'm a mark for a time bomb death match just in general when it's done well. And this one definitely had New Japan production value. I mean, the explosion was huge at the end, which was pretty cool. But interesting match.
So what you got for us for this week?
Well, man, we're talking about this King of Pro Wrestling title. We're talking about gimmick matches. And you made me sit through a gimmick match. So I think that I am going to go ahead and make you sit through a gimmick match.
Okay.
So my recommended match of the week is the IWGP Heavyweight title on the line in the first ever Konami Cage death match between the reigning champion Yoshihiro Takayama defending the title against Masahiro Chono. This is from Osaka Dream Night in 2003. And spoiler alert, this is a match that you cannot access on New Japan World. However, I have been gracious enough to provide a link to this match on the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. Now, you don't have to go there to watch it. If you Google this match, you'll be able to find a link to it on Facebook. But you should join the Wrestling Squared Circle. We run that Facebook group chat, and you'll be able to find my link that I've shared of this match fairly easily. Fair warning, this match goes about 40 minutes.
Oh,
it's
man.
not a short one. It's not a short one. This is, we talk about that time period having a lot of 15, sub-minute matches. This is not one of those. This is an epic.
So buckle in, get some popcorn.
Yeah, but I'll also say this. This is a spectacle that needs to be seen to be believed. It's one of only 3 cage matches in the history of New Japan so far. And it's the only one to take place in front of an actual New Japan audience. The other 2, one took place on a lockup produce show in like 2007, 2008. Makabe was doing that, but those aren't even really considered canon. And then the other one was a empty arena match between Murakami and Tanahashi. So this is the OG. This is for the title, and it's like the only cage match, the only real true cage match in New Japan history, realistically.
Nice. So looking forward to checking that out and reviewing that next week. Well,
okay. I'm looking at cage match, 34 minutes and 6 seconds. So
hey, it's an evil match.
Yeah, basically. It's better than an evil match.
Good. Well, that's going to wrap things up for this week. Next week, we'll be back to review the Never Six-Man tournament and the opening round of the New Japan Cup USA tournament. So if you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at Jeremy L. Donovan. The show is at KI Strong Style. Also follow us at Social Suplex. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/Social Suplex. You can find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Check out our Discord server. The link for that is in the show notes of the show. Make sure you check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. On Sundays, we have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. On Wednesdays, we have the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show from Scotland. Every other Wednesday, we have our podcast dedicated independent wrestling, Grown Men Watch This Shit, hosted by Jeremy Tate and Chris Bryant. On Fridays, we have Get in the Ring with Danny and Beast Mike. And on Saturdays, we have All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.